is suing her ex-boyfriend, 25-year-old Denby Cooper, for an unpaid loan to pay off traffic tickets.
Yeah, it's case number 147 on the calendar in the matter of Wills versus Cooper. Parties have been sworn in. You may be seated. Ma'am, have a seat, please.
Mr. Cooper, what do you do for a living, sir?
I'm the head of domestic sales for a multi-million-dollar company.
And how long have you had that job?
Since about November of 2009.
How much do you earn?
$35,000 a year.
Get commissions?
Yes.
Bonuses?
Not yet.
Have you gotten a commission?
Not yet.
So your base salary is $35,000.
Right.
Who do you live with?
I live with my parents.
What do they do for a living?
My mother works for the county, and my father owns a construction company.
When were you and Miss Wills planning to get married?
We hadn't set a date. It was something we had talked about loosely. We were trying to get all of our ducks in a pond first. At the time, I was unemployed. I wanted to make sure we moved out first, lived together. So we didn't have a date set.
And when you were together, where were you living?
I lived with my parents.
So even when you were dating and discussing marriage, you were living with your parents?
Correct.
And where was Miss Wills living?
With her parents.
Now, you accumulated a whole bunch of tickets.
Correct.
Where?
In Riverside County.
Why?
They were mostly tinted window tickets that I had forgotten about.
What does that mean, tinted window tickets?
My windows on my truck were illegally tinted.
Why were they illegally tinted?
It's the way I bought it.
How many tickets did you get for that?
I think the total was maybe 4.
What else did you get tickets for?
That's all I can remember. It's been so long.
How long ago was it?
It's been well over a year since we paid off the tickets.
Now, you use the word we loosely, I assume, because you didn't pay for the tickets.
Right.
Tell me how that came about, Mr. Cooper.
When we were planning on getting married, I was planning on becoming a police officer. Something like this was holding me back, and we were planning on going to Vegas. I got pulled over, and he said I didn't have a license, which I was unaware of, and we were still going to Vegas.
So you had no license?
Right.
You were pulled over, and you were driving?
Right.
Without a license?
Right.
What do you mean you weren't aware of the fact you didn't have a license?
I never received a letter from the DMV in the mail.
Of course you did. If you've been living with your parents your whole life, you got it in the mail, you ignored it.
I just moved back home.
You ignored your tinted windows. You moved back home from where?
Temecula.
Who were you living in Temecula with?
Friends of mine.
Is that where you got the tickets for tinted windows?
That's where I assumed my mail was forwarded, and I had never received it since then.
How long were you living with friends in Temecula?
Well over a year.
And what's the current address on your driver's license?
Riverside.
And were you living in Riverside when you got your driver's license?
Yes.
How old are you?
25.
And how long is a driver's license valid for?
I don't know.
4 years, 5 years, 10 years, as long as a driver's license is valid in the state of California.
I do not know.
Do you have your driver's license with you?
I don't have it on me, no.
So what you're trying to tell me, Mr. Cooper, is you went to motor vehicles and changed your address when you were living in Temecula?
I changed my address to Temecula. When I came back home, I never changed it back.
They send your mail where your driver's license indicates that you live. My question to you, Mr. Cooper, is, are you trying to tell me that a man who accumulates tickets for the same offense, time after time, doesn't know how long his driver's license is good for, but was a good enough citizen to go to Temecula and advise the county in Temecula that you had temporarily relocated with friends to change your address on your driver's license? I just want you to tell me that that's what you want me to believe.
That's not what I'm telling you.
Fine. Then your mail went to Riverside, not to Temecula. And when it went to Riverside, your parents, somebody responsible who works for the county, and your father who has his own business would have said, hey, idiot, your driver's license is suspended. You get where I'm going?
I understand.
Perfect. Now, let's move on with the tickets. So you were planning to be a police officer, just what we need. And this was holding you back because you were on your way to Vegas and you got pulled over and you had no driver's license. Did they impound your truck?
No, I wasn't on my way to Vegas when I got pulled over.
Oh, I thought you were on your way to Vegas.
It was something that we had planned to do.
Oh, so you weren't on your way there.
No.
You got pulled over in Riverside.
Correct.
And they said your license has been suspended because you didn't pay all these tickets.
Correct.
Who was in the truck with you?
Nobody.
So what happened to your truck?
I turned around and went home.
They let you drive home with no license?
I was a quarter mile from my house.
They let you drive home with
Correct.
no license. And what did you do when you got home?
tried to figure out why I didn't have a license.
And did you figure it out?
I did.
What did you figure?
The culmination of all the tickets that I had.
So you must have called somebody to find out. Did you ask your mom to help you?
No.
How did you find out?
Went to the DMV. The DMV told me.
You went yourself.
Right.
How did you get there?
I had a friend drive me.
Great. And when you got to the DMV, you found out that you had accumulated these tickets with fines. To what amount?
Roughly $2,600-ish.
$2,600-ish. Got it. So then what did you do?
Had to find out what the tickets were for. Had to find out how to pay them off.
How did you pay them off?
I didn't pay them off.
Well, they were paid off.
Correct.
How did that happen?
Larissa paid them off.
Tell me how that happened.
Before we went to Vegas, she said that she didn't want to drive, and I was going to set up a payment plan, but it would take too long to pay off all the tickets. So the end result would be...
Which means you wouldn't have a license.
Correct. Which means I couldn't drive to Vegas.
Go ahead.
Okay. Then Larissa didn't want to drive to Vegas. We were going with a group of friends. So she offered to pay them off for me.
What did she say?
She said...
No, don't look there.
Oh, I'm sorry. I'm trying to remember the best I can, too. She said something along the lines that she had a credit card or she had money, because I don't have a credit card, and that she offered to pay them off for me.
Not offered. She said something to
She
you.
said she will pay them off for me.
Okay. Now, how were you supposed to pay her back?
I wasn't supposed to pay her back.
That's a lie,
Well,
Your Honor.
You were going to make a payment plan with the people in Temecula
Riverside.
or Riverside.
Correct.
Oh, these tickets were from Riverside. Fabulous. Good. You were going to make a payment plan with the people in Riverside, and they are strangers to you.
Correct.
Why wouldn't you at least make a payment plan with your girlfriend and say, listen, if you pay them off for me, I'll at least give you what I was going to pay to the county?
Correct.
Why didn't you? Stop saying correct. Why wouldn't you say that to her?
I didn't need to. She offered it as a gift.
That's a lie.
Why wouldn't you say that to her?
Because I didn't.
Why?
Because it was a gift.
He did say that to me, Your Honor.
Just a second.
Judge Judy continues in a moment.
I assumed it to be a gift. It was brought to me as a gift. I wouldn't offer to pay my grandma for a sweater for Christmas.
Don't be a wise guy with me. Why didn't you ask your mother who works for the county or your father who has his own business?
They said no.
Because you're a bum.
And later today,
I want you to start to think. You didn't think you were coming to the beach today, and you knew what she was suing you for. So let's start to think and not act like a goofball, okay, sir?
real cases, real people. Judge Judy. Larissa Wills says ex-boyfriend Denby Cooper owes for a large loan to pay off traffic tickets.
Now, what I'm asking you is, why wouldn't you say that to her? Sweetheart, they're my tickets. I got them. I was wrong. I don't want you to take out money from a credit card. As it happens, she says she borrowed it from her mother's credit card and then paid her mother back. But I don't want you to be out the money. It's my fault. It's my responsibility. If you pay it off up front so that I can have a license, you know, I'll pay you and your mother back slowly. Why wouldn't a person like you do that?
Because I didn't, Your Honor. Because I assumed it to be a gift. It was brought to me as a gift. I wouldn't offer to pay my grandma for a sweater for Christmas.
Why didn't, listen, don't be a wise guy with me. Why didn't you ask your mother who works for the county or your father who has his own business?
Because they wouldn't pay for me.
Why?
They said no.
Because you're a bum.
I'm not a bum.
Sure you were. You weren't working.
Right.
You were 24 years old. You're a bum. And you had no business going to Vegas. How were you going to Vegas if you were 24 years old, had no job? What were you going to do in Vegas? Stand on a corner?
No.
What were you going to do in Vegas?
Go out with friends. We had a group of people who were going with us.
And how were you going to go out? What were you going to use as barter?
I had money.
From what?
I was working part-time.
Part-time where?
At a cell phone repair company.
On the books or off the books?
Off the books.
Were you getting unemployment insurance?
Yes.
Ah! Always follow the money. That's why I love this job. How long were you working off the books while you were collecting unemployment?
Not very long.
I want the president to listen to this. Go ahead.
Not
How
very
long?
long.
Not very long.
Less
How
than-
long is not very long?
Less than a month, 3 weeks. It wasn't a daily job. I fixed cell phones from home.
You had enough to go to Vegas along with the government's help.
Correct. We split the tab.
You're a big boy. You eat a burger and a half. And you were going out with friends. That's not cheap in Vegas. So the couple of 3 days a week that maybe you worked for a cell phone company while collecting unemployment and saying you were looking for work, you must have earned really good money fixing cell phones.
No.
How much did you pay off for his tickets?
It was $26.78.
How much did he pay you back?
$200.
Lovely. Judgment for the plaintiff in the amount of $2,470. You get a ticket. It's your responsibility to pay it. Bye.
Parties are excused. You may step out.
I'm very happy with it.
I was a little disappointed.
I guess he just didn't want to pay me back for the tickets, and I couldn't get a hold of him.
It was a gift.
He told me to never call him again.
I didn't want to talk to her anymore.
He was mad at me because we broke up.
After she broke up with me to be with somebody else, I had no desire to want to be with her anymore or talk to her.
We just weren't good for each other.
Don't trust women?
Never loan people any money without a written agreement.
And now the next case.
All parties in the matter of McClellan versus Lotz. Step forward, please.
Sammy McClellan is suing her ex-boyfriend, David Lotz, for loans for child support, rent, and an airline ticket.
Miss McClellan, you met the defendant, according to the complaint that I read on the internet. You began to date him and made a series of loans to him. You no longer are involved in any sort of relationship. You want your money back. Mr. Lotz says that there was never any agreement to pay you back any of the money that you gave to him, and the one issue with regard to an airline ticket, you were unable to use it and you gave it to him as a gift. Mr. Lotz, when did you and the plaintiff begin a relationship?
I don't know if I would call it a relationship per se. I talked to her online, and I think I saw her maybe a total of 4 times.
And how long did it last?
Until the time that I thought it was just non-conducive to have any contact with her whatsoever.
Why was that?
Just erratic behavior by emails, text messages, and I have 2 small sons, and I just didn't think that any type of relationship would be an appropriate environment for her to be around them.
Okay. At what point did you decide that? Did you decide that before or after you took money from her?
Well, it would be after.
While you were taking money from her, everything was fine?
We really didn't have a relationship per se except friendship. As I said, I saw her 3 times, 4 times.
Was it clear to you, sir, that she had more of an interest in you than you had in her?
No, not necessarily.
How much money did you give her over the course of the brief time that you spent with her?
None.
How many gifts did you purchase for her?
None.
How much money did you take from her?
It was roughly $2,000.
And what did you take the money for?
I had some past bills, and well, the $2,000 that would include the plane ticket that was a gift.
Forget the plane ticket. I'm not interested in a plane ticket. She had a plane ticket that she couldn't use, and it was going to go to waste, and she gave it to you. Who cares? I'm interested in cash. How much cash money did you take from Miss McClellan?
About $1,700.
Let me hear the first amount of money that you took from her. When was it, and what was it for?
I'm not sure of the exact date, but I had some.
I don't need an exact date. Give me a month and year.
Roughly 4 months ago, last year.
Well, 4 months ago would not be last year, sir. Your math is off. When was the first time he took money from you?
It was on, actually, March 2nd.
And what was it for, Mr. Lotz?
I had some past due things that I had to pay.
Like what?
Various things. I don't know right now. I mean, we had a discussion.
I want you to start to think. You didn't think you were coming to the beach today. And you knew what she was suing you for. So let's start to think and not act like a goofball. Okay, sir? What was the money for? You saw her, according to you, 3 or 4 times. In at least 2 of those 3 or 4 times, she gave you money. What was the first one for?
I believe the first one is I had some utilities stuff and some insurance.
How would she know that you had issues with your utilities and your insurance?
We had extensive conversations via the internet and Facebook. That was basically the bulk of the relationship.
You mean that you needed money?
I was going through a very hard divorce, and I confided in her as a friend, and so she knew the situation of everything that was going on.
Don't tell me what she knew. If you're courting a woman on the internet, which is what you were doing.
I don't know. I think that's a
well, unless
misrepresentation
you're some sort of a pervert, I would assume that if you were on the internet involving someone in the intimacy of your life, you were doing either some sort of courting or some sort of conning, or you're a pervert. You have 3 choices. Those are the only 3 choices I can come up with. Courting, conning, or a pervert.
I don't see it that way.
I don't care what you see. So somehow she knew you needed money for your utilities and insurance. This had nothing to do with child support, did it?
No, I was paid for. I took care of that. It was paid.
When was it paid, sir?
I pay the first week of every month.
I told her about a hearing that was coming up March 2010 and the child support payments I needed to make right away. That's what you wrote. That's not what she wrote. That's what you wrote. That's not a utility. Your children are not utilities. They may be utilities to you, but child support is not a utility or insurance. How much did you give for child support?
It was $600.
That's a better answer. Now, these are the two sons that you didn't want to be around somebody that was as kooky as the plaintiff, right? These are the two small sons that you're very attached to, or do you have other sons?
Just them.
Just them. She didn't make them, did she? She didn't make them.
No, ma'am.
Whose responsibility is it to support them?
Mine.
Right. And what do you do for a living?
I'm a chef.
So you eat regularly. And the court sent an order of support that you were supposed to pay. Why didn't you pay it?
I was having some financial difficulties.
So you were either courting her, conning her, or you're a pervert. Right now we fit into the conning part. $600. It's not her responsibility to support your children. What other money did you take from her, Mr. Lotz?
My rent.
Rent. Who did you live with?
Myself.
So let's see. You're not paying child support, and you didn't have any money for rent. So what category are you? You're either courting her, conning her, or you're a pervert. How much money did she send you in rent?
$11.50.
How much did you send back to her?
You know, it was a gift in my estimation.
How much did you send back to her? The answer is
Nothing.
none. Now, in what month did she give you the $11.50 for rent?
It was March.
So in March, she gave you money for child support and rent.
To be honest, I don't remember.
Is that right?
Yes, ma'am.
Now, at what point did you believe that she was a threat to your two children? What month was that?
It would have been in June.
Did you see her in April?
No, I'm sorry, it was May. I'm sorry, Your Honor, it was May.
Everybody fits into one of those categories on the internet. Now you know where you fit. Judgment for the plaintiff in the amount of $17.50. That's all. Thank you.
Parties are excused. May step out.
Suing her ex-boyfriend, Ryan Baker, for bail money, attorney fees, and car repairs.
Order. All rise. Now it's case number 145 on the calendar in the matter of Birchler versus Baker.
Thank you.
You're welcome, Judge. Parties have been sworn in. You may be seated.
Ms. Birchler, it is your claim that the defendant who used to be your boyfriend owes you money for a loan for bail and then a loan for some car repairs. Mr. Baker says there was never any agreement to pay you back, so there was no contract. Is that right, sir?
Yes, it is.
When were you arrested?
February 12th, 2009.
And what were you arrested for?
Driving on suspended. And I got picked up because she was on her way to work. And
Just a second. You were arrested for driving with a suspended...
But I had a
what?
warrant.
You had a warrant?
Yeah.
For what?
For driving on suspended. And we were on our way
We're going to do this my way, sir. I know that it might confuse you, but I like to do things in a linear fashion. You were arrested on February 12th, 2009 or 2010?
Probably 10. 10.
And the warrant that you were arrested on was because you had been driving without a license.
That's correct.
And you were supposed to appear in court?
Yeah, and I missed my date.
Why did you miss your date?
I didn't know which day it was, and I didn't make it to it.
You don't know what year it is?
Yeah.
So it's not surprising to me you didn't know what day it was. How long were you in jail when they arrested you on February 12th?
4.5 days.
For not having a driver's license?
Well, I had other warrants, too.
Right. Mr. Baker, we got enough aggravation in this country. We don't feed people 3 squares a day because they were driving on a suspended license. What were your other warrants for, sir?
I had 2 driving on suspended, no insurance, and seatbelt, and then tail light, and that's it.
From how many different traffic stops?
3.
And you forgot all 3 dates, Mr. Baker, that you were supposed to be in court?
Yeah.
You must be a very, very busy man, running a very busy company.
Work a lot.
Doing what?
Well, now I do construction, but back then I was standing on the side of the road waving to people, Liberty Tax, and dancing.
You were standing on the side of the road waving at people for what?
For Liberty Tax, it's an income tax place. You get your taxes done there. That was just a part-time job.
And what were you doing with the rest of your time?
I was doing construction now, but back then that's all I was doing.
Who were you living with?
My parents.
So you weren't doing much of anything. So there was no reason why you didn't go to court for these tickets.
I just missed my dates. Stupid mistake.
And Miss Birch put up $500 towards your bail, right?
She felt sorry for me.
Well,
because it was her fault I went to jail.
it was. Why don't you try to explain to me the best way you can why it's her fault that you went to jail?
I would have never went to jail if we would have never gotten that little argument, and she smacked me in my face. And then when she smacked me, I threw my hands up, and Mountain Dew went all over, and we were yelling at each other. And then I got out the car and tried to calm the situation down.
And tried to what?
Calm the situation down, make it better.
So you got out of the car after this argument.
Yeah.
And?
I started jogging to work because we were like a mile away from my work. She was supposed to drop me off.
So you were
work.
running away from the car?
Yeah, well, I was going to my job.
So you were running away from the car, and what happened?
Security guard saw the whole scene and picked me up.
Police picked you up?
Yeah.
So that's why it was her fault you got arrested and the warrants dropped on you?
I would have never got arrested if we would have never gotten that fight. She would just drop me off my work. The whole situation would be prevented.
So it's her fault?
Pretty much, yeah.
Whose fault is it that you skipped your court dates?
That's my fault, but...
Whose fault is it that you got the tickets?
My fault, but...
Whose fault is it that you didn't have a seatbelt on?
Mine.
Whose fault is it that you were driving twice with a suspended license?
That'd be mine, too.
Well, why does somebody else have to pay for what you did wrong?
Because I wouldn't have got picked up.
Where do you live?
Independence.
Independence,
Missouri.
Missouri? You think that the police in Independence are that stupid that they'd never pick you up on a warrant?
They'd have to find me first.
What's the motto of Missouri?
Live free or die? Show me.
Show me.
Show me state.
Show me state.
The show me state. I knew it was something that I would like. Okay, she put up the bail for you?
Yeah.
And how did she know where you were?
When I was in jail, I called my dad, and she was over at my house. He texted her to tell her that I wanted to talk to her, and she came over to my house.
She came over to your house, and when you called, what did you say to her?
I said hi, and she said hello. And then I asked her. Then I asked her if she would help me out, and she was
Would
like,
help
blah,
you
blah.
out how?
Well, I was stuck in jail, and I needed $1,400, and she just got her income tax. So she was like, blah. We got talking, and she said she was sorry for smacking me, which that's how I figured I got in there. That's the whole time I was thinking that.
Mr. Baker, you got put in jail because you were irresponsible and you had been breaking the law and you had been thumbing your nose at the court system by not showing up for your court dates. That's why you were in jail.
That's not true.
Oh, Mr. Baker, there's one thing to be stupid and there's another thing to appear to be stupid. Don't combine the two. You were in jail because you broke the law, and then you thumbed your nose at the court system by saying, I'm not going to court. And you didn't do that once, you did that 3 times. That's why you were in jail. You weren't in jail because she slapped you. You were in jail because you broke the law. Now do you understand?
No.
There's your combination.
Look, that's a pretty powerful combo.
Judge Judy continues in a moment.
Do I look like a smart lady to you?
Yes, ma'am.
Right? I look like a smart lady from you? Do you trust me?
Yes.
And later today,
If you're trying to be charming with me, trust me, it's not going to work. Better looking and richer people than you have tried to charm me without success.
real cases, real people. Judge Judy. Catherine Birchler says ex-boyfriend Ryan Baker owes for bail money and attorney fees after he was arrested on an outstanding warrant.
Okay. What do you do, Miss Birchler?
I work at a call center.
You work full-time?
Yes, ma'am.
For how long have you been working full-time?
Since February 15th.
And how old are you?
20.
Did you work prior to that?
Yes, I worked at Macy's.
Worked there for a while?
A couple months. It was a part-time contingent job.
You live at home?
I have my own house. Well, complex.
It's a duplex,
I do.
but
Yes, it's a duplex. I'm sorry.
You pay rent?
Yes.
You drive a car?
Yes.
You pay insurance?
It's already paid. Yes, ma'am.
You buy your own clothes?
Yes, ma'am.
You don't need him.
I understand that.
Do you understand?
Yes, ma'am.
You're too young to be desperate. Do you know what I mean? Pretty young 20-year-old who works hard and supports herself.
And my son.
Not desperate. Do you understand?
Yes, ma'am.
Perfect. Okay. Other than the $500 for bail, what does he owe you for, Miss Birchler?
About a week after I got my tax returns, he asked me if I would help him fix his car, and he said he needed to pay lawyers. I thought that's what I was understanding the money was for. So I told him he could borrow $300 as long as he promised to pay it back.
That's a lie. She didn't let me borrow it.
I don't want to hear you unless I'm looking at you and asking you a question.
This was on March 1st, and I said, as long as you pay me back $700 by...
Where was he supposed to get $700 from?
He was working, and he told me he'd give me his whole entire checks, that he wouldn't keep any of the money. So I was under the impression he might actually pay me back. So I gave him the $300 to help fix his car.
How much did he pay you back?
All in all, he paid about $100 back.
What do you mean about $100? What does that mean?
Well, I mean, he would help me around my house.
I didn't pay her nothing.
Okay.
Didn't pay her anything?
No. And I didn't have a job when she gave me that $300. I was in jail and I lost my job.
So what did you need $300 more for from
to get
Ms.
my fuel
Birchler?
pump and a key ignition made? Because my ex-girlfriend, of course, I got a new girl after I got out of jail, and she was texting her about getting my car fixed. She lost my key.
I don't care. There must be lots of desperation there in Missouri. Stay away from him.
Yes, ma'am.
Do you understand?
Yes, ma'am.
Stay away from him. Don't make any children with him. Don't get involved with him. Do I look like a smart lady to you?
Yes, ma'am.
Right? I look like a smart lady from you? Do you trust me?
Yes.
You escaped. Judging for the plaintiff in the amount of $800. That's all. Thank you.
Parties are excused. You may step out.
Well, I'm quite pleased.
I didn't like it at all.
He had his new girlfriend, text me and let me know that he would not be paying back the money and that I needed to get over myself.
She was texting her, and then after I got the car fixed, she called my phone, and then my girlfriend picked it up and was talking to her.
She called me after that and told me I was a few choice words and that he would not be paying me back.
She didn't ask for any of the money until after I got a new girl.
Not date guys like him.
Don't talk to crazy girls like that.
And now the next case.
All parties in the matter of Van Buskirk versus Shook. Step forward.
Wendy Van Buskirk is suing her former friend, 23-year-old Jonathan Shook, for unpaid rent, bail money, and a loan to buy an engagement ring.
Miss Van Buskirk, the defendant, according to you, was a young man that you took into your house. He was a friend of your son's. He had no place to go. You opened up your home. You took him in, and according to you, he owes you some money.
Yes, ma'am.
Claim he owes you some money for rent, which is not a major deal, but that you loaned him some money to buy an engagement ring.
Yes, ma'am.
And you want that money back.
Yes.
In addition, you bailed him out of jail in the amount of $200. What were you arrested for?
Having kitchen knives, basically. Deadly concealed weapon.
A concealed weapon.
A couple of them, yes.
Where do you live?
Waldorf, Maryland right now.
Where had you been living with the plaintiff?
It's Brandywine, Maryland.
In Maryland?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. When did you move in with her?
I'd say right before the winter of 2008, I believe. I'm not exactly sure.
And where is her son now? You were a friend of her son's.
Right not Ocean City, but Atlantic City.
How long has he been in jail?
About a month.
What is your son in jail for?
Assaulting a police officer.
A couple other things.
Couple other things. I'm not exactly sure, but it's...
Well, he didn't start out just walking up to a police officer and assaulting him. It had to be...
No, ma'am. No, ma'am.
And I assume he's incarcerated pre-trial.
Yes.
Does he have bail?
Yes.
How much is his bail?
$1,000.
Did he ask you to bail him out?
Yes, he did.
And why didn't you?
Well, it started off at $7,800. It's been reduced to $1,000, and unfortunately, I didn't have the money at first, and I plan on getting him out this Friday.
What was your rental arrangement with the plaintiff?
Well, when I moved in at first, nothing. I didn't have a job. I had nothing, but it...
How old are you?
I'm 23 right now.
How do you make a living? How do you support yourself?
I detail cars right now, and I actually just got a job doing telecommunications.
And what kind of work was her son doing?
At the time, when I moved in, nothing at all.
What did you borrow money from her for?
I didn't.
Did you buy your girlfriend a ring?
Yes, I did.
Where'd you get the money from?
I paid part of it, and she said she was going to give me the rest as a gift to help me out.
How much did she pay?
I'm not exactly sure the exact numbers, but I paid for about half.
The ring was $629.99, and the warranty for the ring was $74.99.
What kind of warranty do you get on a ring?
The warranty is for, you have to take in every 6 months for cleaning, replacing the diamond if it gets lost.
It's some... I won't say that. I'll hear from all the jewelers if I say that that warranty is a ripoff.
Oh, it is.
So I don't want to hear from any jewelers out there. Don't write to me. Don't say bad things. I don't understand a $75 warranty on a ring. Did he put anything towards the ring?
3 payments of $45, Your Honor.
That's not true. I gave her like $300 up front.
No, he did
And then
not.
I made the payments of $45, and then she said
No,
the
he
rest
did
was
not.
a gift.
If you don't have money, you don't buy a ring.
Well, I understand that.
Well, you shouldn't have bought it.
I had the money that she wanted.
You didn't have the money.
And then she said the rest was a gift.
You didn't have the money.
Not on me.
If you have $300 and you want to buy a ring, find a ring for $300.
That's why
If
I'd
you had
asked her.
$400,
Find a ring for $400.
I don't think you're cute, as a matter of fact.
I understand.
Just want you to understand that. If you're trying to be charming with me, but trust me, it's not going to work.
No.
Better looking and richer people than you have tried
I
to
believe
charm
it.
me.
I believe it. I believe it.
Without success.
Oh, I believe it.
That didn't require a response.
Okay.
Try taking the hair out of your eyes. You'll see the world better.
All right.
Ma'am.
Don't speak.
Sorry.
Now, when you were arrested, you had a phone call to make.
Yeah.
Who'd you call?
Called a couple people just to let them know I was locked up, and then next thing I know, I was out of jail.
You never called the plaintiff.
Never talked to her.
How did you find out he was in jail?
Through my daughter-in-law, Nicole.
Through your daughter-in-law?
Yes.
This child is married to your son who's incarcerated?
No. No.
To another son?
Yes.
Okay. How did you find out he was in jail?
I was with him when he got arrested.
What were you all doing?
We were walking down the side of the road trying to keep him from going inside the road.
Explain that to me. Look at me when you explain it to me.
He was just upset, and...
He was upset about what?
I don't exactly remember about what. Something that was stressing him out, and he was just walking in and out of one of the main roads, so we were just walking next to him, making sure he didn't get hurt. Me, Johnny, and a friend of his that was with us.
So he was trying to walk in traffic?
He was just walking in the road. We were walking on the side of the road. He just happened to walk in the road. We were just walking with him down the side of the road. And the cops ended up coming up saying that he was impeding traffic and he had a whole bunch of knives on him.
Was he high on drugs?
Not that I'm aware of, no.
Well, probably was high on drugs or something if he was impeding traffic. And then they searched him and found these concealed weapons?
Yes, ma'am.
Yeah, terrific. Now, what did he say when he called you? I assume he called you from jail?
Well, he called Wendy from jail.
Called her?
Yes.
Good. Sit down. She says he called you from jail.
He begged me to get him out of jail. I have a receipt for bail and the bail bondsman.
How long were you in jail, Mr. Shoup?
Like 8, 9 hours. Not even that long. They, PG County out in Maryland, they let you out the next morning, or I'd have been let out that night when they paid my bail, but I never...
You used drugs, Mr. Shoup?
Used to.
What was your drug of choice, sir?
Marijuana.
What else?
That's it.
Were you high on the day you were arrested?
No, I've been clean for like 3 years, 4 years now, actually.
Then what were you doing obstructing traffic?
Trying to get my dog out the road at first, and then I dropped knives in the road. They were in a box, and I dropped the box to go chase after the dog in the road. There you go. Once I got the dog back, I went to go get the knives out the road. And that's when the state trooper pulled up, and I was walking down the road, and he didn't lock me up that day. He locked me up the next day. It was a confusing situation, and then they dropped the charges after it all was done and over with, so it just didn't make no sense.
I'm staying in Greenwich. Did you call her and ask her to bail you out of jail?
No, ma'am. I don't even know the house number to call her.
You used to live there. How long did you live there?
About 1.5 years, but I never used the house phone. I have a cell phone.
You have 10 seconds to tell me about rent, because I'm not actually interested. Go!
He paid $100 a month prior to moving out. He didn't pay for 3 months.
When did you move out of the house?
I'd say around October of last year. I just couldn't stay there no more. And she had said something about, getting the couches and everything out of there, which I didn't understand. It was not my problem. It's her son's bedroom, and we both brought the couches in, and why do I have to take the couches out of the room? If they were his couches, he's the one that got bought.
Just give her the money for the ring and your bail. $495 for the ring and $200 for your bail. Perfect. Take your hair away from your eyes. Go to the barber. That's all. Thank you.
Is suing her stepson, 22-year-old barback Jason Hamilton, for loans to retain an attorney and to pay restitution. Nicole says Jason was arrested for stalking his ex-girlfriend.
Your Honor, this is case number 28 on the calendar in the matter of Hamilton versus Hamilton. You're welcome, Judge. Parties have been sworn in, Your Honor. You may be seated, sir. Have a seat, please.
Mrs. Hamilton, this is your stepson. Is this your husband?
Yes.
Oh, a little background. I gather from your complaint and your answer that you were divorced.
Yes, ma'am.
From his mother. You can step up here, sir. And for most of his life, you'd had very little contact.
That's correct.
More recently, you contacted him, or you contacted your father. Which way?
I contacted him.
Son contacted you, and you began to build a relationship. Now, Jason has had a troubled adolescence. Is that a fair statement, Jason?
Yeah.
And it is your claim, Mrs. Hamilton, that your funds were used to help Jason out when he got us into some trouble with the law.
Yes.
For an attorney, for restitution payments, and at that time he was in fact living with you.
Yes.
To live with you. Jason says that the lawyer was your idea. He was perfectly happy with the public defender, and that the restitution he has paid for by working it off while he was living with you.
Yeah.
So I'm going to start with you, Jason. How old are you?
22.
What were you in trouble for, Jason?
Aggravated harassment and stalking in the fourth from my ex-girlfriend.
Okay, so let me hear about the first loan that you claim for his lawyer.
When we bailed Jason out on September 18th of last year, Jason was not happy with his public defender at all. He verbalized this to both my husband and myself.
What did he say?
He said he didn't feel that he was going to fight for him. He was going to, he felt that the public defender just wanted him to plead out to anything and get the case over and done with as quickly as possible. And Jason did not want to do that. He wanted to fight it. He didn't want to be charged, and he didn't want to violate his parole from his previous court case and actions on that.
What were you on parole for, Jason?
Arson.
What burned down, Jason?
Garage.
Go ahead.
On his first court date after he was bailed out, we went and got him an attorney.
Who's we?
My husband and I.
Go ahead.
After that, as far as with the restitution, initially he had to live with us as part of us bailing him out. And when we decided we were moving out of the area, he was given the option to move with us or stay in the area, and we would figure something out and work it out. He decided that he did want to move with us. So my husband and I paid that restitution from his previous case in order to free it up.
Case?
Yes.
Okay.
And then the other part of the restitution was for the current case. After everything was settled, there was $100 restitution.
So he
for
pled
that.
guilty. You pled guilty in the current case involving your ex-girlfriend.
Right. I couldn't afford the lawyer anymore, so I had no choice. And I can't...
Were you at that time that the matter was scheduled for trial still living with your father and stepmother?
No.
Did you ever pay the lawyer any money?
No.
So it was just a $1,000 retainer that you paid the lawyer?
Correct.
Yes.
That was after Jason moved out, after
Correct.
you had the altercation in your house with him?
Yes.
Mrs. Hamilton, so far I haven't heard anything about a loan.
Before Jason was bailed out, on the phone conversations, he was informed that anything that was pertaining to this legal case was a loan and was to be paid back. That was one of the conditions of him being bailed out. Jason made comments about how he was not like his sister, who also we had a problem with before that. He was not like his sister, and he would pay us back that money. That was said numerous times, and at the end of Jason's stay in our house, because everything was a loan, I had him sign a promissory note.
Well, I know. Jason says that note, you sort of forced him to sign the note because you said you were going to have his bail revoked if he didn't sign the note.
That was not
Jason,
how it was
well, I'm
worded.
going to turn over to you now, Jason.
When I was on the phone with them before I was bailed out, I was not told that it was a loan.
I'm sorry, that's wrong.
Shh.
I moved in with them. I did not know I was going to move in with them. I thought they were going to bail me out, take me home. But instead they brought me to their place, worked for them. My work would be to pay off whatever I did.
Well, what kind of work did you do, Jason?
I helped him their construction business.
What did you do?
Labor. It was, unload the truck, load the truck, help my father you know, stuff like that. As far as me with my restitution, like I said, I never asked for the money. I never asked for any of it. I just simply said, when they went to pay it, I said, you know, you don't have to do that. They said, oh, no, don't worry about it. I said,
No,
okay.
that's not what parents say, Jason. They don't use the word, oh, don't worry about it. They might have said, when you get yourself together, we hope you'll pay us back. Does that sound right? Huh?
Yes, yes.
That sounds right. You know, life is so simple, Mrs. Hamilton. That's what parents say, even if they have an ongoing relationship with their children, if money is tight in a household. You don't say, well, this is a loan, and you will pay me back so much each month on this loan.
Your Honor, in the beginning, he did agree. Before I bailed him out, I told him, if I bail you out, you've got to pay this money back in a timely fashion, and you've got to get your act together, because the lifestyle he was living is totally, I'm afraid he's going to end up in jail for the rest of his life.
Where's your mother?
It's in the back of Buffalo.
Did you live with her all your life?
Yes.
Are you still in touch with her?
I live with her right now.
You have a sister?
Yes, I do.
How old's your sister?
19.
She in trouble?
No.
What kind of trouble?
Well, when we had her with us, she steals, she lies,
She's never been to jail, but she is a very emotionally troubled person, and she's been in and out of, she was in a group home at one point.
Jason, tell me about the conversation you had with your father about the lawyer, about the public defender.
I was going to get a new PD to begin with, because the guy that was representing me, he just didn't know what he was talking about. He had no clue.
What do you mean? Just a second. What do you mean you were going to get a new PD, public defender? You think that they give them out if you don't like one, you get a chance to get another one?
Well, that's what they were going to do. When I got rid of...
You live in a very good jurisdiction. If a criminal defendant came before me and said, I don't like that lawyer, I want to get another lawyer, you know, but I would say to them, go hire your own lawyer. You want to pick and choose? Go hire your own lawyer. This is the public defender for the day. You don't like this one? Get some money and go hire your own lawyer. You know, this is not one from column A and one from column B. You get one chance. Do you understand, Jason?
Yeah, I understand.
Good. Are you working now?
Yes, I am.
What kind of work are you doing?
I'm a barback at a banquet hall.
Hope this New York State Liquor Authority doesn't know about that. Is this arson conviction that you have a felony arson?
Yes.
Woohoo! Hope they don't value their liquor license. Listen to me, Jason. I want you to listen to me very carefully. I am not so concerned about the $1,000 that your stepmother and stepfather put up for the lawyer. I think they're going to have to tolerate that, because I think that that's what parents do if they're afraid that their child is going to be confined. And I'm not so sure that that was a loan. But I'm concerned about the restitution, Jason, because what possible value is it to your moral compass if somebody else pays your restitution? Restitution is what you're supposed to pay, right?
I understand that. I was paying it.
How? I don't understand how you were
was
paying.
working
with money I
beforehand.
gave him.
Just a second.
Not just money you gave me. I was doing odd jobs here and there.
Well, you paid some of it, but they paid the
I
rest.
was paying on
Just
it.
a second. But they paid the rest. Well, paying the rest, it doesn't teach you any kind of a lesson. That's your responsibility. That's not your father's responsibility. That's not your stepmother's responsibility. That's your responsibility. The criminal justice system doesn't want to see. What do you do for a living?
I'm a real estate investor.
Doesn't want to see this lady who works. What do you do for a living?
I'm an investor also.
I don't know what that means, but life is too short.
Buy real estate.
They don't want to see their money going to pay your restitution. They didn't set fire to the garage, and they didn't stalk your girlfriend.
I didn't either.
Well, then you lied to the court, sir, when you pled guilty.
I didn't know, what am I going to do if I ain't got money?
You know what innocent people do? They go to trial.
You have
Just a second, Jason. You're 22 years old. Is that what
Yes.
you told me before? How many times have you been arrested? Think. I'm going to give you 5 minutes. How many times have you been arrested?
13 times.
13. Shh. Come on. 13 times. 22 years old. And how many convictions do you have, Jason?
I have four 4 convictions.
I have 5 children. How many kids you got?
4.
9 children altogether. Not one arrest.
Judge Judy continues in a moment. And later today,
Miss Knapp, someone tried to kill me with a car. I wouldn't get into bed with them for a deductible or anything else.
real cases, real people. Judge Judy. Nicole Han Hamilton says her stepson, Jason Hamilton, owes for loans to retain an attorney and to pay restitution. Nicole says Jason has been arrested for arson and stalking.
You've been arrested 13 times. That cannot all be a mistake. The 4 times that you were convicted is not a mistake. The last 2 times that you pled guilty, I mean, you know the system, evidently. You're smart enough to know the system, that if you want a new PD, all you got to do is stamp your feet around, say, I'm not getting good representation. What you're supposed to do is not do things that get you into any trouble. Do you understand?
I know that.
Okay. And if you didn't learn the first time, and if you didn't learn the second time, the 10th time, you should have learned. By the time you got to the 12th time, it should have been bells go off in your head. Now you're at unlucky 13. Jason, you're 22 years old. You want to die?
No.
You don't care?
No, I care. I'm working now. I'm going for my GED. I have my life on track.
Good.
That's
then
what
pay your restitution. The lawyer, it's yours.
I just wanted him to learn a lesson.
He's
about
going to pay his
responsibility.
restitution. Judgment for the plaintiff in the amount of $695. That's all.
Thank you, Adam.
Parties are excused. You may step out.
I look at them as just white trash. What are they going to do? Sue their own son when he hits 18 for all the stuff that they paid for him?
As people can see, he is a punk. He'll always be a punk. I wash my hands with him. I got a beautiful 14-month-old son. I'm doing it right this time.
Smoking pot. I'm in probation. I don't want to get involved in no pot.
He's the one that smokes the pot, and I told him I didn't want it in my house.
I don't have a father. That's the way I look at it.
I'm here to guide you and show you the proper way. If you don't want to do that, I'm done.
And now the next case.
All parties in the matter of Knapp versus Wheeler. Step forward.
Delivery truck driver Barbara Knapp is suing her ex-boyfriend, steelworker Claude Wheeler, for purposely driving her van into a ditch. Claude claims he swerved to miss a deer.
Ms. Knapp, it is your claim that Mr. Wheeler, who used to be your boyfriend, wrecked your car.
Correct.
And in addition to the damages to the car, you want some money for pain and suffering. I don't know what pain and suffering you want. You'll, I'm sure, explain it to me. Tell me about the day of the incident.
Okay, on December 28th, I do believe, we went grocery shopping, stopped at a bar and had a few drinks and was coming home and...
Okay, what time did you get to the bar?
8 o'clock.
8 p.m.?
8 p.m.
And how long did you stay at the bar?
Oh, possibly an hour maybe. No, not that long because we had groceries in the car, so about an hour then, say.
Is that right, sir?
Correct.
Okay, you stopped at a bar, groceries in the car, went home, on your way back to the grocery.
On our way back home, and we were discussing just things, and an old boyfriend was brought up because he was apparently came into the bar, and I had made his comment that he's still loving my life, and he didn't like it, so I don't know what was said, but then he swatted me upside the head, in the back of the head, and then I had told him that that was it and it was over, and he proceeded to say, oh, I'll show you that. He drove my car down into the ditch. The next thing you know, a pole's coming, and we were headed straight for the pole, and he turned it just enough to go past the pole, but in the meantime, we kind of got wedged into the ditch and had to go out the windows to get out, and then I was just kind of in shock, I do believe, and
okay.
That was that.
Well, we were driving home that night. I had a few drinks, and we were arguing, and I was looking at her.
Try looking at me.
I don't recall slapping her upside the head or striking her. We were arguing, and I was looking at her, and when I turned my eyes back to the road, there were deer in the road, and I swerved to the right to miss the deer, and as soon as we got to the edge of the road, the snow sucked us into the ditch. I didn't do it intentionally.
Don't remember the deer?
There was no deer. He did it on purpose.
And you issued a report?
Mm-hmm.
You have a copy of that report?
Yes, I do.
I'd like to see it, please.
That is the traffic report. Okay.
Shh. You have any other police reports?
No, I went to the trooper's barracks to try to get the actual report from my statement and his statement, but apparently they do not let that out. They don't.
Your Honor, I have a signed statement of her from the night of the accident.
Can
right
I
here.
see it, please? That's what I'm looking for. Well, you did sign a statement on the 28th of December, Ms. Knapp. You didn't say anything about him purposely damaging your car. You say at about 2 or 3 o'clock, my boyfriend was at my house. He had a margarita, which was left over from last night. At about 7 o'clock, we went grocery shopping at Wegmans and then went to Jit's Bar for a couple of beers and pool. He had 2 or 3 beers there. Then we started home. Claude was driving. I wasn't paying attention, and all of a sudden we were going towards the ditch. I didn't see if there was a deer, just that he was going towards the ditch. You didn't tell the police that he tried to kill both of you?
No, I did not.
Why not?
I just was still in shock from all of it, and I just didn't. I just was going to go with the story with the deer because I just was in shock because that's what he wanted me to say, and I just didn't.
What happened?
Notice, Penal Law Section 210.45, in a written instrument, any person who knowingly makes a false statement which such person does not believe to be true has committed a crime under the laws of the state of New York and is punishable by a Class A misdemeanor. And that's what you signed.
Mm-hmm.
Is there any reason why you think, Ms. Knapp, that I should believe you now? Ms. Knapp, I have a couple more questions for you. When did you and the defendant separate?
It was,
Around the 1st of February.
So between December 28th and the 1st of February, you still lived together?
No, we did not live together.
We just dated.
And you dated the same way that you were dated before?
Pretty much.
It wasn't this, not in my eyes, because it was over in my eyes, and I just wanted to get a deductible from him, so I kind of...
Which I did pay. I paid the $500 deductible.
Yes. But I figured if I broke up with him, I wouldn't have seen any money or nothing, so I kind of just had to hang in there to get my deductible, and...
You know,
then a month and a half later, 2 months down the road, she's after for this $5,000.
That's not going to happen.
Thank you.
Ms. Knapp, if someone tried to kill me with a car, I wouldn't get into bed with them for a deductible or anything else. And if you did, that's your problem. Bye. Case dismissed.
Parties are excused. Mrs. Palmer, all parties have been sworn in. Judge, you may be seated. Have a seat, please.
This is a pretty sad situation.
Very sad.
Mr. Palmer, this is your daughter, Vanessa. Vanessa, how old are you?
17.
And you're suing your daughter, Mr. Palmer, because you say that she left your home. And when she left, she took a car that had been purchased, and she owes you money for the car. You either want the car back or you want her to start paying you the money for the car. And she left your home under very unfortunate conditions. So I have a few questions, and then we're going to try to resolve this, okay?
Okay.
All right, Vanessa?
Okay.
Now, when's your birthday?
August 28th.
You say you bought the car, you say for her, but she was supposed to make payments on the car.
Yes.
No, he bought the car for my birthday and because I got a job. And he told me to tell my friends that I had to pay him back so they wouldn't get jealous, but he told me it was for my birthday.
Could you both come up here for a minute? Mr. Palmer, I don't know what could motivate a parent other than anger to bring their 17-year-old to court. I'm sure it's not the money, right? Because her birthday, this car was bought almost a year ago, correct?
Correct.
And for a year, you didn't pay any money, right? You seem to acknowledge that.
Yes.
So why now?
Because over the past year, I had been asking when this was the only obligation that I asked of her throughout the entire period was that I will get a car for you. She wanted a brand new one, but I was not going to co-sign to purchase,
which I would have been paying for,
to purchase a brand new car. Furthermore, going to school and working part-time I really feel that it's not in your budget. So what I said I would do is purchase the car for her, pay cash. This eliminates finance charges. Also, you would only have to have the liability insurance, and I feel that it would best fit.
How much did you pay for the car?
It was around $900. Then,
so it wasn't an expensive car, and then it was in an accident, according to your papers. It took some
No,
fixing
it
up.
was stolen.
Or it was stolen and
Right.
it was trashed or something,
Yeah.
and you had to pay some money to fix it.
correct.
Step back, Mr. Palmer. Step back, Vanessa. First of all, Mr. Palmer, we're going to get to the emotional part of this case in a minute. How much is the insurance on the car, Vanessa?
$53 a month.
And you pay that?
Yes, I do.
And Mr. Palmer, how much did you tell your daughter she was supposed to pay you each month towards the purchase price of the car?
We had to establish, first of all, approximately what her income was going to be.
Did you have this discussion with your father?
No. No. He never told me I had to pay him back for the car. Whenever he was upset with me or mad at me, he told me I owe him. But other than that, he never told me.
Honor, that's not true.
What I asked you, Mr. Palmer, was a very simple question. How much did you tell your daughter she had to pay you back each month for the car, like an installment loan? Give me the figure that you say you told her.
I didn't give her a figure. I was somewhere around $100 a month.
That's not a business arrangement, sir. Somewhere around $100 a month. So for a year, she didn't give you anything.
Yes.
That's while
correct.
she was living in your home.
Yes. Of which I had asked her over that year, when are we going to start fulfilling the obligation that we had agreed upon?
That was pretty much when you got angry with her? She says it was when you got angry with her, when
No.
she did something wrong.
No,
You mean-
Your Honor, that was not why I got angry at her.
Why did you go and live with your father in 1991, Vanessa?
Because it was a better living situation than with my mother. She was separated from my stepfather, so
Did your father take good care of you?
yeah.
Then you got to be 17, and according to these papers, you got a boyfriend.
Right.
And your father didn't approve of either the boyfriend or...
He approved of him until he found out he was my boyfriend, because he's friends with a neighbor of my dad's, and he says, "Oh, he's such a nice guy," and this and that. And then whenever he found out he was my boyfriend, he didn't approve. Actually, because he has a kid, he didn't approve.
He has a what?
A daughter.
He has a daughter?
Mm-hmm.
How old is his daughter?
6 months.
Vanessa.
Yes, Your Honor.
You don't have to bring coals to Pilion. Did you ever hear that? Vanessa. I was a family court judge for a very long time. Do you know how many times I've seen 16 and 17-year-old girls? Not all of them as pretty as you are. Tell me that they love a guy and he's got 2 or 3 kids floating around, right? Do you know how it sits on your father's shoulders when he sees his beautiful 17-year-old daughter dating a guy who has a 6-month-old baby? How irresponsible that is. How old is your boyfriend?
20.
20. And I assume he's a president of a bank or something. That's how he earns a living?
No, he was working until he broke his ankle.
He was working at what?
In a warehouse.
And now what is he doing?
He broke his ankle, and now he's on disability.
So now we have a 20-year-old on disability with a 6-month-old baby. And you wonder, I mean, I wish, Vanessa, that you could take yourself out of your 17-year-old body and make yourself 40. For a minute. Do you know what I mean?
Yes.
Because he knows, if he's smart, how easy it is to throw away your life when you're 17 and to make a mistake when you're 17 and you can't recoup. The woman or the girl who had your boyfriend's 6-month-old baby is never going to be able to recoup her life. Don't you understand? If he liked him, he liked him. Then he found out he was your boyfriend and he's got a 6-month-old baby. You think that there's something wrong with your father for being angry at that and for saying to you, listen, babe, I'm going to do whatever I can to see to it that you don't ruin your life.
Judge Judy continues in a moment.
You hook your star to a loser, that makes you a loser.
Real cases, real people. Judge Judy. David Palmer says his 17-year-old daughter Vanessa had no right to take the car when she left home to live with her mother.
You're a mother. Stand up here. Stand up here. What's your name?
Donna.
What did you tell the daughter about this boyfriend?
She's dating him. She's not marrying him.
I don't care whether she's dating him or marrying him. Didn't you explain to her what the problems are?
When I found out that he had a child, I was a little upset about that. Other than that, I think he's fine.
You think a 20-year-old with a 6-month-old baby who's on disability is fine for your 17-year-old gorgeous daughter?
I think he, as a person, is fine.
Listen, there are a lot of very nice people. I have daughters. I have 2 of them. If my daughter, who was 17 years old, came home to me and said, I got a boyfriend who's 20 years old, who's on disability, who's got a 6-month-old kid, that he's not supporting because he's on disability.
Excuse me. He still is supporting his daughter.
What can I do about that?
You can try to discourage her. Just a second, you can try to discourage her.
It was a done deed.
It's a done deed.
That's
right. She's in love with him.
She's in love with him.
I mean, they're not planning to marry, to run off together. They both live at separate residences. They're dating.
You know, maybe if your daughter had a unified front with her parents, and both of her parents saying to her, this is a tremendous mistake, then maybe we wouldn't be in this situation, because I gather from these papers and from what you're saying that the reason your daughter left home was because you said, I don't want him in my house anymore.
She was thrown out.
Just a second.
He threw her out.
What happened, sir?
No, Your Honor, that is not true. That is not true. That is not true at all. When I stated that it is not in her best interest to see this young man anymore because of what we have been discussing, was when it all broke loose. She said, well, fine, then. And she said this in the presence of my 2 younger ones, because I walked outside to kind of cool off a little bit. That, fine, then, I will go live with my mother.
No.
That is not what happened.
Well, you weren't there. Just a second. You weren't there. So you tell me your version of what happened.
We were arguing and he was yelling at me. And he yelled at me to help my sister with her homework. So I did. And he was still yelling, and I yelled back, why are you yelling at me when I'm helping you? And he said, don't yell at me, shut up or get out. And I said, fine, then I'll go. And he said, take all your, well, he didn't say stuff, but.
Was it about Toronto?
Mr. Palmer.
Tell her that.
That was a heated argument. You understand how that falls on a 17-year-old. You understand how that falls on her, even if, you know, even said in anger. If it was said in anger. But you were looking for a reason to leave the house.
No, I wasn't. He told me all the time, I can't wait till you're 18. Since you have to stay here, I'm going to make it hell for you.
Oh, please.
I'm going to make you want to leave.
Is that what he said to you?
Yes, Your Honor.
Why would he say that to you?
Ask him.
Who are you?
Insane.
My name is Victoria, and he had told her right in front of me, well, maybe I would love her if she lived at a friend's house. And I thought that was very wrong.
Yeah, sure, it's very wrong. Bottom line is, everything was okay until you got the boyfriend.
Everything wasn't okay, but that just added to it.
I was under the impression that he was all for the boyfriend.
He let him come over to the house. He went with us to my aunt's house on Easter.
That's where I got my input about
Well, then what happened? Then there must have been something that happened. If he was in favor of the boyfriend or was not opposed to the boyfriend, he must have found something out. What did he find out? Find out about the baby?
About the baby. He knew he had the baby.
Right.
No, he knew that.
He knew there we go.
Hey,
Thank you.
Listen, Vanessa.
Thank you.
You misunderstood what she said.
He knew that my boyfriend had a baby.
He approved
wasn't
of
against
the boyfriend. He approved of him. I'm serious.
He told me that I could still hang around him if he got a court order with child support and did everything through court. He pays child support for his daughter. He does everything right.
Just a second. He can't pay child support. Hold on a second. This is getting more interesting by the moment. Mr. Palmer, just a second. Just a second. What you just said to me is, even after he found out about the baby, he said, you could still hang around with him, but I want him to act responsibly towards the baby. I want him to get an order of support.
He already does.
No. Is that what your father said to you?
Yes.
Is that what your father said to you?
He said that if he had a court order for child support and a court-ordered visitation, then it would be okay.
That sounds pretty... That sounds pretty reasonable to me, sir. I wouldn't be so reasonable, I tell you that right now.
Well,
the reason he didn't go through court, he pays child support and he has visitation. They have a written agreement between the two of them. The reason he doesn't take her to court is because his family is totally against that. So...
You are getting yourself into such a barrel of horse manure. I can't tell you. And to see a mother stand there in an approving manner about this whole thing is, to me, bizarre. Mr. Palmer, listen to me, sir. All I can suggest to you, sir, is to keep your door open for your daughter.
He changed the locks.
Judge Judy continues in a moment.
Oh, yeah, you guys are real intelligent, aren't you?
Real cases, real people. Judge Judy. David Palmer wants his teenage daughter, Vanessa, to meet her responsibilities by paying for the car she took when she moved out of his home.
All I can suggest to you, sir, is to keep your door open for your daughter. She is, at this point in her life, making a tragic mistake. Tragic.
Yes.
I will not be able to get through to her. You have not been able to get through to her.
Nope.
She's got a mother who's got to head someplace in the clouds somewhere.
Very true.
Right?
Correct.
Right?
Very
But
true.
I'm telling you, Vanessa, you find yourself with a 6-month-old baby, madam. Your life is over. And you're a very pretty girl, and you sound like an intelligent girl. You sound like you probably do well in school. You have a job in addition to going to school, which suggests to me that you're motivated. You have a certain responsibility because you pay for your own car insurance. And I'm telling you, you hook your star to a loser, that makes you a loser. And any 20-year-old guy who's dumb enough to have a 6-month-old baby is a loser.
He's going to become a fireman. He's not a loser.
Right now, listen,
What?
gonna become a fireman isn't making him a fireman now. Right now, he's a 20-year-old on disability with a 6-month-old baby.
He broke his ankle.
Listen to me. Say nothing. Are you the boyfriend?
Yes.
You the boyfriend? I would suggest that you keep your mouth shut.
Judge Judy continues in a moment. Real cases, real people. Judge Judy. David and Vanessa Palmer, a father and daughter, are fighting over the car she took when she moved in with her mother.
Mr. Palmer, I have to dismiss your lawsuit, and I'm going to tell you why, sir. I was really hoping that when I looked at these papers, I could get beyond your lawsuit and see what this was all about and maybe resolve it. I can't. I mean, I can't. She's going to have to come to terms with that herself, but your daughter's 17. She's a minor. And you cannot get a judgment against a minor because right now you are her legal guardian, correct?
True.
So if I were to give you a judgment against your daughter as her legal guardian, you would be responsible for it. Do you understand that?
You're suing yourself.
Be suing yourself.
Do you understand that? She's a minor.
No, I do not.
Listen to me. I don't know.
Legal guardian.
Hey!
Whatever.
She does not reach the age of majority in this or any other jurisdiction until she turns the minimal age of 18, which means you cannot get a judgment against her. You can get a judgment, however, if she's committed a tort or something else against her guardian. But you, sir, are her lawful guardian. So if I were to give you a judgment against your daughter, you would have to pay it. That sounds kind of stupid, doesn't it? Since you're paying anyway. Now, you can, sir, wait until your daughter turns 18. And then in equity, if you still want to, you can reinstitute this suit. But right now, you cannot sue your daughter. I don't think it was without some value, Mr. Palmer. I don't think that getting this piece out was without some value. I think that your daughter, Vanessa, will at least think a little bit. Vanessa, I have never, in the thousands of times that I've seen young women like you, in cases like yours, it's not unique, I have never seen one of them where the woman, young woman, doesn't find herself behind the 8 ball. And you may be angry with your dad, but if this is all over the boy, and I gather it is, he's right, you're wrong. You'll figure that out in 5 years' time. Unfortunately, in 5 years' time, it may be too late, which is really what he's saying. And if your mother doesn't see that, she's got clouded vision. This case is dismissed, that's all.
So excuse, you may step out. Next on the calendar in the matter of Dersawa versus Dersawa. Parties have been sworn in, Judge. You may be seated. Ma'am, have a seat, please.
Are you Mrs. Dersawa?
Yes, I am.
Mr. Dersawa, do you think your son loves you?
I don't know.
Let me tell you what he says. Your papers indicate that your son removed some guns from your house that were your guns.
Yes.
Correct?
Yes.
Your son says that he removed the guns from your house because he was concerned about you and concerned for his mother.
Yes.
Do you think he had reason to be concerned?
Yes, I certainly do.
Why were you concerned about your father's safety and your mother's safety?
Both of them. There have been very violent fights between the two of them, several 911 calls. My father had 2 strokes. My mom had 1. During that time, there were 3 suicide attempts by my father. I had just learned of it, that that's what the events were on the 3rd one, and I removed the guns at that time. After I removed the guns, a 4th attempt was made, where he attempted also to take my mom with him, as he put it.
How?
She went to make a 911 call because she found him in the car. He had stabbed himself in the arm. And this was on my birthday. And she went to make the 911 call, and he grabbed her, put her on the ground, throttled her throat, and said he was going to take her with him.
And how long ago was that?
That was about 3.5 years ago.
And your parents are separated?
Yes.
Since?
During that time is when he asked for the weapons back, was right when they started separation. And I asked him, I said, Dad, I don't want to give them back to you. What do you need them for? And he said that he needed them for the money. I told him I would be glad to purchase them from him at that time. He said he was not interested in me having the firearms and was going to do anything he could to get me free of them.
Mr. Dersawa,
yes.
Senior, is everything that your son says so far accurate?
Yes, it is.
Don't you think he did the smart thing by removing the guns?
Yes, I certainly do think that he did the right thing, and I thanked him very much for taking on the responsibility of removing the guns from the house.
But what do you want now, sir?
I asked for the guns to be returned to me.
Why do you
And he refused to return the guns to me, and I told him at that time that they were my personal property. They did not belong to him or anybody else except me, and that I wanted them back.
What do you want them for?
I originally wanted them back to hang on the wall as mementos of my childhood. And since then, I was flexible and had second thoughts, and I thought, jeepers, I'm in fairly good health, I'm in good frame of mind, and there's no reason why I should not have the guns. And I told him to return them to me. They are my personal property, and when I thanked you for them, that didn't mean that you could keep them for the rest of your life. They are mine, and I want them, and I want you to return them to me. And if you don't return them to me, I am going to take you to court. If it costs me a lot of money in attorney's fees, I am going to expect you to reimburse me the attorney fees that it cost me to get the guns back. And he didn't listen to me, I don't think.
He seems like a pretty responsible young man that you raised, and a very nice young man. You had any difficulty with him before? Huh?
Yes, many times.
Okay. As an adult, sir,
Yeah.
how old are you?
I'm 42 years old.
Married or single?
Married.
You have children?
No.
Are you employed?
Yes.
What kind of-
Self-employed. I'm a photographer and hairstylist.
You remain close with your mother?
Yes.
Is that right?
I would like to say one thing, that it seems to me when my husband is angry at me, he tries to take it out on him because he knows how close we are.
How many children do you have?
I have 2, Tim and Max Dursaway.
Are you the older brother?
Yes.
Where are the guns now?
The guns are at a friend of the family's house.
You put a value in your complaint on these guns of $500.
Yes.
None of us live forever, Mr. Dershowitz. What did you suppose would happen to these guns when you were no longer here?
I really couldn't care less.
Well, that's a good attitude. I mean, it really is. It's a good attitude.
I hope they're safe, and I hope that if anybody does get them, that they are in as good a shape as I believe that they are at the present time.
Did you at one time have issued against you by any court an order of protection or a restraining order with regard to your wife?
Yes.
And when was that?
Most of last year.
At the same time that he requested the guns back from me.
Okay. Does anybody have a copy of this restraining order?
I do.
May I see it, please? How long were you and your wife married?
It'll be 43 years, I can tell you, June 10th, this year. And I'm still going to be married on June 10th, if I'm alive.
Have there been divorce proceedings filed?
No, we both agreed to a separation. However, we agreed to a separation a long time ago, and she decided, for some reason or another, that she would make it legal and go through the legal procedures of getting a separation. So she hired an attorney, and then I hired an attorney to protect my rights, because at that time she told me that she was going to take everything she could get.
Judge Judy will continue in a moment.
We're family. We don't need to go to court over this. All you have to do is tell me what you want and I'll cut you a check.
And later today,
Your son was acting like an idiot. Your son was acting like a fool.
real cases, real people. Judge Judy. Max Dershowitz is suing his son Max Jr. for the attorney fees he spent to get his guns back. Max Jr. had the guns removed for fear of his father causing harm.
Are you living alone now, sir?
Yes.
Do you see your other son? Do you visit with your other son?
Well, when I get an opportunity.
Where does he live?
He lives in Riverside.
That's not so far away. You have grandchildren?
Yes, 2 grandchildren.
Do you visit with them?
Yes, usually they come down to the house where I'm living, and it's so short visit, I hardly even know that they've been there.
Mr. Dershowitz, I am, quite frankly, sir, sympathetic with your position to this extent. What you're saying to me is, I'm a grown-up, I'm an adult, I have all my faculties about me, and I don't want my children to start to make decisions for me about what's good and what's bad. Is that what you're saying?
Yes, perfect.
On the other side of that coin, sir, I am really most sympathetic with your son. Because if he were the one who returned these guns to you, and you used one of these guns either to harm yourself or to harm his mother, his life's over. Do you understand that?
Yes, I do.
His life is over.
Yes.
And I don't think any parent would want that for their child. I mean, if you came here, Mr. Dershowitz, and said to me, I've never done anything to suggest to my son that I would harm myself or harm his mother, and he really has no basis to be concerned about these guns that are mine, I would feel very differently, sir. But that's not the case. You have attached a financial amount of money in your lawsuit.
Yes.
You are suing for money. And I will feel more comfortable. So put the burden on me so that maybe you can make friends with your son again. I am going to give you a judgment for the money. And I am going to direct you, sir, to ensure that these guns, which are mementos of your father's history, you know, he's had them in his family for years. I don't know whether your brother has sons who might be interested in having these hunting rifles at some point in their lives, but he would, despite the fact that he says he doesn't care what happens to him when he's gone, I think he would probably like to know that they remain in his family, for whatever reason.
Yes.
Fine. So I'm going to give you, sir, a judgment for the exact amount that you are requesting, and you keep the gun safe. Got it?
Okay.
Good. Thank you.
As I'll excuse you, may step out. Here you are, sir. Back to your right, please.
We're family. We don't need to go to court over this. All you have to do is tell me what you want, and I'll cut you a check.
And now the next case.
Party's on Smith versus Brown. Step forward, please.
Walter Smith and his 15-year-old son, Brian Davis, say Joseph Brown's 16-year-old son, Joe Jr., poured bleach on their carpet. Joe Jr. says Brian threatened him with a snake.
You the one with the snake?
Yes.
Up here. You the one with the bleach?
Yeah. Yes, Your Honor.
Up here. And you are the fathers of these two geniuses.
Yes.
Yes, Your Honor.
What's your first name?
Brian.
Brian, tell me what you did to this young man with your snake.
Well, we were out.
No, over here.
We were out in front of the houses, and I had a snake, and I went like this, like I was going to put it on him.
What kind of snake did you have?
A red-tailed boa, just a little snake about this big.
Well, you said this big, and then you
Well,
said this
about
big.
like-
Is it growing?
About this big.
About this big?
Yeah, about this big.
And what, you made believe you were going to put it on him?
Yes.
Why did you do that?
I don't know. I was just messing around.
And then what happened?
And then he threw like a icy or a Slurpee or something, I don't know what you call it, threw it on me. And then I went back towards my house and put the snake in the garage and got a cup of water and went back outside to throw it on him. And when I got out there, he had a cup in his hand, and he said, if you throw that on me, I'm gonna throw this on you. And it was bleach in a little cup. And then what I did is I pushed it out of his hand and threw the water on him and started going home. And then he came out of his house afterwards with a whole gallon of bleach. When I got into my house, I shut my door and he started to pour it on my back, and it got all over the carpet. And then my mom started coming downstairs, and then he went back home.
Your side.
Well, it was me, him, and a couple of other people. We were supposed to be going to the bowling alley. But instead, the dude that was supposed to be driving us said that he didn't want to go. So what we did instead is we stood outside and talked. He had his snake. This snake, I don't know what kind of snake it was, this big snake. The snake is hissing and snapping and jumping up. They thought it was funny. He turned the snake on me. So I said, get the snake away from me. I guess he didn't want to listen. Then I had went in the house and I came out with my soda. And he was like, what's in your cup? What's in your cup? And I was like, soda, right? And he knocked the cup out of my hand, threw something on me. I looked down at my clothes. My jeans and my shirt were starting to fade. So I assumed it was bleach because it was a yellowish color when he threw it out at me. I went in my house, got a thing of bleach, and came out, and I ran after him because he was running towards his house. And he ran in his house. We ran in a complete circle around the kitchen and all the way to the thing. He turned around and he tackled me. And I had the bleach in my hand. We were on the ground and the bleach was going everywhere. His moms had just came down when we was on the ground. I didn't go in the house and throw any bleach anywhere.
Judge Judy will continue in a moment.
We might have resolved the matter, but
Well,
he was adamant about having my son arrested.
Your son's the one that came into my home. You should have came over. You knew what he did.
Real cases, real people. Judge Judy. Walter Smith and his 15-year-old son, Brian Davis, say Joseph Brown's 16-year-old son, Joe Jr., poured bleach on their carpet. Joe Jr. says Brian threatened him with a snake.
Why does your son have a boa?
He likes snakes. It's out in the garage. They keep it in an aquarium out in the garage.
He didn't keep it in the aquarium.
No, that day he had it out. But the account of the story, what he's saying, based on
Were you home?
Sean. No.
Were you home?
No, ma'am, I wasn't.
You don't know what happened.
Just from my little son that witnessed it, Sean. He saw the whole thing happen. It didn't happen like he's saying it happened at all.
Sean
Well,
wasn't even out.
Listen to me. Sit there. I don't want to get him involved, sir. Your son was acting like an idiot. Your son was acting like a fool.
I agree.
You think that his father should pay for all the damage to your rug?
Yes, I think he should. His father's responsible for Joseph's actions since he's a minor.
Mhm.
And he broke into our home, and we had nothing to do with it.
No, he didn't break into your home.
I broke into your home?
Hey,
He came through our front door when it was closed and came in and poured bleach all over my son and the carpet of my home.
who started it?
Well, that's two different stories.
No,
Your
no,
Honor.
he told me the story. Your son told me the story, Mr. Smith. I assume you believed your son was responsible enough to have possession of a snake. Not a little teeny garter snake, but a boa that's about so big. Then if you are not a snake lover, you a snake lover, Bird?
Not really, Judge.
You wouldn't like it if somebody fooling around came over to you and tried to put the boa around your shoulders or on you,
No.
which is what he did.
Your Honor, I wanted to say something that this matter, I thought maybe could have been resolved between me and the neighbor. When I came home that afternoon, I had left, and the neighbor told me that she had called the police that Joseph had spilled some bleach on the carpet and that Brian had threw water on Joseph. And she said the reason she called the police was that she didn't know what time I was getting home.
Why did you call the police? Who called the police?
I did.
Why?
When I got home from the doctor.
Why?
Because someone had came through my front door unannounced, uninvited, into my home, invaded my home, and dumped bleach all over my carpet.
Mr. Smith, didn't your son tell you that he and his friend were out there and they were fooling around and it got out of hand?
Yes.
Just a
yes,
second.
ma'am.
Just a second. So why would you call the police?
I just told you that, Your Honor. I told you why.
The incident was precipitated by a dumb thing that your son did. This was not a burglary in the middle of the night, sir. They had been friends, and he's a neighbor of yours. I don't understand why
It
you
was an
called the police.
invasion of my privacy. That's my home.
All
You
right.
know,
Mr.
I would-
Smith, you're not willing to accept any responsibility for what your son did. How old are you?
16.
Let me see the bill for the carpet.
Your Honor, I was going to say that I thought maybe we could resolve it between as neighbors,
Mhm.
but when they decided to press charges against my son for vandalism and assault,
Okay. The entire bill for this looks like $1,720. Is that right?
Plus 120 for the my son's clothes that were completely destroyed by the bleach.
I don't care about your son's clothes. Your son started this whole problem.
Judge Judy is ready to rule.
This act of lunacy was started by you and finished by you, right?
Right.
So each of you have to pay half. That sounds fair to me.
$860, Judge.
You're way ahead of me, Bird. So, Mr. Smith, if you want to be fully compensated, then get your son to get a job and give you $860. And from these folks, I suggest you don't pay this for him. Let him pay for it. You know, let him do something to pay for it. Teach them all a good lesson. Right?
Right.
You feel any responsibility towards what happened?
Yeah, I feel responsible for what I did.
What about you?
Yes, ma'am.
Good! Only problem is your father. He doesn't see it yet, but maybe he will. $860, which is one half of the cost of the carpet. That's all.
Parties are excused. You may step out.
Judge Judy will continue in a moment. And on the next
Judges, number 21 on the calendar in the matter of Germain versus Kaplan. Parties have been sworn in. Judge, you may be seated.
How long have you folks been neighbors?
Almost a year.
According to your complaint, Ms. Germain, you were the owner of the cat. The defendants own a dog. What kind of dog do you have?
German Shepherd.
And unfortunately, you allege that their dog injured and your cat subsequently died as a result of those injuries.
Yes.
And you are seeking the vet bills that you incurred. Now, why don't you tell me how that happened?
I was in my backyard watering, and Toby came to my gate and called out my name and said, "Candace?" And I said yes, and she was very calm about it. So I said, "Go to the front door," because my gate was locked. So on my way to the front door, I stopped, I got a glass of water. I took my time because it didn't sound urgent. I got to my front door, I saw she was holding my cat, and I said, "Oh," I go, "my cat looks dead." I go, "But sometimes they look that way." Then I noticed her tongue was hanging out of her mouth, and I said, "Oh my God, what happened?" And she said, "Well, we had just gotten home with our family, and I let my dog in your yard, as I usually do, to go to the bathroom."
That's not true.
That is exactly what was said. And she said, it took me no more than a few minutes to bring my baby carrier in the house, and then she said the dog came back with my cat in her mouth.
Where had your cat been?
The cat was in my yard at the very top of the back of the gate, which is like behind my house.
But in your yard?
Yeah, in my driveway.
So you took your cat, and what did you do with the cat?
Well, I took the cat, and I couldn't find my keys, so I insisted that she take me to a vet, because I didn't even know where a vet was. And
how long had you had the cat?
10 years.
What kind of cat was it?
A Himalayan.
What color? Blue Point, Teal Point? I know a little bit about cats.
I'm Blue Point.
I love their faces, don't you?
I know, they're a totally different kind of a cat, if you know.
Yeah.
Like regular cats. My son had seen the cat up in the driveway 5 minutes prior to her coming to my fence with the cat.
Okay. So you took the cat to the vet, and what happened when you took the cat to the vet?
They said she had severe trauma, and that they did x-rays on her, and they said that she needed to stay overnight for care, that she wasn't well enough for me to take her home, but they didn't provide care there. So I had to take her to Studio City for overnight care. And they told me, just go ahead, pick up your cat at 8 a.m. She'll be, ready to go back to the vet. I called them right before I left my house, and it seemed everything was okay. When I got there, they said that she's gone the other direction. She'd never make it back. So they had me bring her next door for surgery.
You want to take a minute? 1 minute?
So I took her, or they transported her next door to the Studio City Animal Hospital. When they spoke with me, and they did not say that, she's not going to make it or anything. They just said that we can't, say either way. And I said to go ahead. And
what did they want to do?
They said she needed to do surgery because her lungs, she had a leak in her lungs, or air in her lungs, from the punctures.
So they did the surgery?
Yeah. Then they sent her back over to the overnight, and I kept checking on her. One time I checked on her, and they said she was stabilized, and then I checked on her again, and they said she wasn't doing well. And then at midnight, they called me, and they said, she's now probably has like a 5% chance of living. And she'd already been through a lot, so I just told them to let her go.
And what were the veterinary bills that you incurred?
I have them on here. $1,434. And that's just from Studio City Animal Hospital, the overnight care. I paid cash. That was a couple $100. And then Sherman Oaks Veterinary, the first place I took her to, was a little over $300.
You have those bills?
Those are all the bills. That's the overnight. All right. This is the total for, and then here's Sherman Oaks Veterinary Group.
Thank you. I have $1,786. Does that sound right?
I don't know. I didn't add
Between
this.
these two bills, yeah. Okay.
There's three bills.
Who's going to speak? Mr. and Mrs. Kaplan?
I am.
Tell me what happened on that day.
We were at home. We had finished our dinner, and then we went out to get my daughter's booster seat out of my husband's car, and we brought the dog out with us. She comes out with us oftentimes and stays right near us, or she'll go piddle and come back.
But she was not on a leash.
She was not on a leash. So she walked out with us. We walked to the car, which was about 10 steps from our front door, opened the door, pulled out the booster. Mark went around to the trunk of his car to open up the trunk and looked on the sidewalk, and our dog had her cat by the scruff of the neck walking gingerly towards us as if she had found something injured and brought it to us. And I even reached out and I pet the cat. Cat felt dry, bone dry, fine. Didn't even have any indication that anything was wrong. Looked up at me, and I thought, well, I don't know why she even brought it over. She's never done that. And we started to walk away. The cat got up and started to walk towards the house. And when she was walking, I thought she looked a little funny. So I thought, well, let me check and see. Maybe this is the way the cat is, or maybe there's a problem. So I picked up the cat, and she still hadn't said anything. We hadn't heard anything, seen anything. I picked her up, and I went to Candace's front door. I knocked. There was no answer. I heard watering in the backyard, so I went to the gate. I yelled out about 4 times to Candace before she answered, and I said, I think there's something wrong with your cat, but I'm not sure. Can you come to the front, come, let me in? And she said, the gate's locked. I'll go in the front door. I'll come out. She came to the door after just a couple of minutes, and she looked at the cat. She said, oh, my God, what's wrong with the cat? Is the cat dead? And I said, I don't know what's wrong with the cat. Gabby brought her to us, and I don't know what's wrong. And I tend to be a calm person by nature, so I wasn't melodramatic about it. And all of a sudden she said, oh, my God, her tongue's out. And then Candace started, oh, my God, is she dead? Is she going to go? And she just, with the tears and screaming and carrying on, and she was very upset, which I could understand. Being a pet owner, you get upset if there's something wrong with it. So I took Candace to the vets with her cat. And at that time, the vet had said it could be, it appears to be a puncture. She could have been hurt. It could have been from an animal, bite, whatever. But they didn't know, so they took her back to stabilize her. And it wasn't until the next day or the day after she came over with bills and handed them to Mark. And Mark said, well, what is this?
Judge Judy continues in a moment.
You know how long it takes to hang somebody?
Well, it takes a while.
Less than 2 minutes.
Real cases, real people. Judge Judy. Candace Germain claims her neighbor's dog killed her cat and wants Topi and Mark Kaplan to pay all the vet bills.
Ms. Germain, I have a few questions for you. I have to get the logistics. Was your cat within a confined area?
She was just on the, no, she wasn't. She was just on the other side of the fence.
And do your two properties abut each other?
Yes, our driveway's between the 2 yards.
So that your cat was outside of an enclosed area and your dog was
in my yard.
Outside of an enclosed
Was
area.
outside of an
Outside
enclosed
of
area.
an enclosed area.
Right.
That's
And
correct.
when we saw her, she was on the sidewalk in the front.
Her dog went into my yard.
But you
That's
didn't
what
see
you're
that.
saying.
There
Can
are
I
many
say
dogs
that
in our front yard all the time.
Can I say that my cat, because she's an indoor cat and she'd accidentally gone out, never leaves that top of that driveway. She does not walk around the front of the yard because she's usually in the backyard.
You know what we're talking about, Ms. Germain? What we're really talking about is there is a certain responsibility that you have when you let a pet, whatever that pet is, outside without a leash, or a cat outside without being confined to an area. What I was trying to ascertain was whether there was any proof that their dog somehow got into your fenced property where this cat was.
No.
And there is none. So the next question is, did the dog actually do the damage to this cat? Now, I want you to describe to me how this German Shepherd came to you with this cat in his mouth.
Well, she was carrying the cat by the scruff of the neck like a female dog would carry its pups. And the cat was just sitting there. She wasn't trying to get away. She wasn't doing anything. She was just carrying.
She doesn't know any
There was
better.
no sound. There was no skirmish. There was no anything going on, and the dog walked right up to Mark, right up to him like, you know, there's something wrong here.
Well, you know, sometimes I have seen dogs, I don't know whether you have, come in with squirrels, come in with all kinds of little creatures outside to sort of bring
Home
a
with-
gift
That's right.
home
That's right.
to
That's
their
right.
owner. Look what I have for you. And they're not bringing that home to say, listen, this is an injured pet and I'm coming to you because I want you to fix it. They're coming to you and saying,
Look at
I
what
have
I
a
brought home."
trophy
Right.
to give you because I love you.
Wow.
That's what they're saying. I
This would have
assume.
been the first time she brought this trophy home.
But she's never,
Hold on a
she's
second.
never.
Go ahead.
This would be the first trophy that she'd ever brought home in the 2 years that we've had her.
Has she ever brought home
No,
Has she ever brought home a
Nothing.
sick pet for you to help?
nothing.
So she has never brought home a sick pet for you to help, which is really what you
Well,
are
she
suggesting.
also never carries anything ever in her mouth. She won't even fetch a ball. She won't do
But
anything.
she did this
Yes,
time.
She did.
She did this time.
Right.
And so your supposition that she was bringing you home a sick pet to show you that she had brought home an injured animal is merely supposition. I want to tell you right now that it strikes me more likely that for whatever reason she was bringing home a trophy to her owners. And unfortunately the trophy
Well, it was
hers.
less than a 2-minute period of
It
time,
doesn't-
though, that it was there,
Let me-
and the...
You know how long it takes to hang somebody?
Well, it takes a while.
Less than 2 minutes.
Judge Judy is ready to rule. And later today,
And actually, I feel sorry for her new boyfriend because she's probably going to ruin him like she has me. So.
real cases, real people, Judge Judy. Toby and Mark Kaplan say they shouldn't be held responsible for the death of Candace Germain's cat, that any dog in the neighborhood could have been responsible, not just their German Shepherd.
I'm not a German Shepherd psychiatrist, and I'm not a behavioral scientist, so I can't tell you what German Shepherds usually do. All I can tell you is you have a dog that you've just told me never did anything like this before.
Right.
But did it now.
It carried a cat to me, yes.
And so, based upon the proof that I have, which is she had a live cat with no problem, and your dog brought her cat, your big German Shepherd brought her little Himalayan cat in the mouth. The cat suffered trauma. Cat didn't survive. It appears to me that I am satisfied by the required quantum of proof in these proceedings, which doesn't have to be proof beyond a reasonable doubt. It has to be proof by what we call a preponderance of the evidence. You know, more evidence than not. Your dog caused these injuries, so you're responsible for these bills. I would also suggest to you that when you have a big dog, and now you have a big dog that for one reason or another brought you prey once, that you see to it that that dog is not let out without a leash, even for a minute, unless it's in your enclosed property. Because you never can tell a dog that is perfectly fine for years and years all of a sudden goes off like that. So I am satisfied that the injuries that were caused to her cat, which resulted in the cat's death and the subsequent medical bills that she is responsible for, were a result of what your dog did, and I'm awarding the plaintiff $1,786. Thank you, that's all.
Thank you. Excuse, you may step out. I'll back to your right, please. Sure.
Thank you.
We wanted to keep peace in the neighborhood and not have problems, and it hasn't been since this incident. In the rudeness towards us from them, the cold shoulders, which is understandable though, and then sprinklers shooting up over our cars that are on our yard that haven't been fixed, and loud music that vibrates our house and everything, and so, you know, they're just rude to us.
Parties on Bonnet versus Roberts. Step forward.
35-year-old engineer Ronald Burnett is suing his ex-wife, Sandra Roberts, over a check that bounced.
Mr. Barnett, the defendant has been served in this action and has not appeared, so I'm prepared to enter a default judgment in your favor, sir. But before I do, there are several questions that I have.
Yes, ma'am.
According to your complaint, the defendant, who is your ex-wife, borrowed money from you.
Well, actually it wasn't borrowed. She asked for the checks, or she gave me checks because she needed the cash immediately. And her landlord...
First of all, why would you lend your ex-wife money in the first place?
Well, she was living with me.
Why?
After.
Why?
Well, she has a 2-year-old son who, well, actually he's 5 years old now. He's 2 years old when I first met him. He doesn't have a biological father of record. So he called me his father, and I'm very attached to the little boy. So I went and allowed her to come back and live with me for the little boy's sake, because she come back from wherever, Missouri, I believe it was, and until she found a place of her own. I allowed her to stay with me.
How long did she stay with you?
Oh, it was about 3 months till about January. And then an incident occurred where she started having a lot of her male friends calling in the middle of the night, and she'd talk to them for hours. She wasn't providing anything around the house. She was like basically living as if I was, a parent or something, taking care of her. And so I asked her to leave, and then she got violent one day on the car. I was picking her up from work. She didn't have a vehicle at the time. She took the mirror off and started hitting me with it and stuff. So I said, you have to leave. You have to go. And it's not good for the environment of your son. So she got an apartment and all. Well, she started getting behind on her bills because she, for whatever reason, and she basically wanted to either come back to live with me or, she needed help with her bills. So for the little boy's sake, and I still have feelings for her. I mean, I know in my head that, it never worked out between us. I still care for her and adore the child. So.
Do you visit with the child?
I was up until recently, until all this mess with the checks go, and so I haven't seen him quite a while now.
That's too bad.
Yes, it is.
That's
I
too
feel
bad
sorry
for
for
him.
the little boy, and then I feel sorry for myself, of course.
Judge Judy continues in a moment.
How much did you give her that she failed to return?
Okay, what it was at the time I didn't even have money, but she needed $250 immediately for her rent in cash. So she wrote me a check out, but I didn't have the cash in my account at the time. And she needed it that night. Then I finally agreed to give it to her. So I went to the National Check Cashiers, and they have a $37.50 charge. So she wrote me a check for the $250 plus the additional $37.50. And then she told me about her car being in the shop, and she couldn't get her car out unless she had the money for it. And it was additional $250. So we went to her car shop, and I wrote her $250. And she told me at that time, she says, well, I get paid Saturday. This is like on Thursday. She said, the money will be good by Monday. So she wrote me the second check for $250, which is what I wrote out to the car dealership. And I have all this information here.
So far I'm up to $537.50.
Right. And so it comes to Monday. So I held up. I didn't really need the money at that time. So I held up to the Monday, go to her bank, and I asked him, I said, do you have the money in the account? No, we don't. So then I tried getting a hold of her. She avoids my calls. And
but she still owes you the money. She stopped payment. According to your paper, she stopped payment on these checks.
Yeah, well, eventually, then I deposited the checks. I was trying to do is prevent her from getting her bounce check charges, and from me getting them.
So all told, including, sir, the fees for these checks being stopped, came to $602.
Right, well, that included the mirror, because one of the things I was asking for was that she reimbursed, because then when I got upset with this, she promised she would never hit me with the mirror and stuff again. Then she turned around and then she did this with the check. So I said, well, I'm going to go for a reimbursement of where you broke the mirror. That doesn't count the medical payments of where she injured me with the mirror.
How did she injure you with the mirror?
Oh, when she broke it off, she started beating me with it.
Where?
Oh, I put my hands up, so I have them about my wrist and arms and stuff.
Mr. Barnett, you better put a period to the end of this relationship.
Oh, it's already happened.
Okay. Judgment in this case is for the plaintiff in the amount of $602, the amount of his request. Thank you, sir.
Excuse me. Step out, sir. Number 127 on the calendar in the matter of Nowell versus West. Parties have been sworn in, Judge. You may be seated. Have a seat, please.
Mr. Nowell, you are the owner of a four-wheel drive truck kind of car.
Ford Explorer.
According to your complaint, your 16-year-old son, that's you, sit up, was driving this four-wheel drive truck, and the defendant's son, that's you, was you can sit down.
Okay, sorry.
Was a passenger in the front seat. According to your complaint, this young man damaged your car by pressing some sort of a button.
To change it from two-wheel drive to four-wheel drive while the car was in motion. Truck was in motion, yeah.
And you say that because of that, there was damage to the car, $1,300 worth.
Yeah, it was in perfect working condition until the boys went for a 15-minute ride to the Del Taco.
Okay. You weren't in the car.
No.
Now up. What's your name?
Kai.
How long have you been driving?
About 2 months.
How long were you driving at the time that you had this young man as a passenger?
A couple days.
Days.
Yeah.
Who else was in the car other than the two of you?
Those two guys, Jeff and Chris.
So there were 4 of you all together.
Right.
So tell me what happened. You get in the car and your friends get in the car and you decide to take a little spin.
We were going to Del Taco to get dinner, and we were just, driving, and Jared decided he wanted to push the 4-wheel drive button. So he kept hitting it, and I asked him to stop, and I told him to stop, and I slapped his hand away and tried to make him stop, but he's bigger than me, and I was trying to drive and do it at the same time, so.
Why didn't you stop the car?
Because I thought he was, I don't know.
Did you have any sense that that would damage the car?
I thought it would do it if he did it enough, but I didn't think it would do that much damage.
You wanted to say something, sir?
Yeah, basically, his friend was in the back seat, and he's not a friend with the defendant, Jared West. And so there's little intimidations, a new group of friends. He was trying to be in that thing, so he didn't just stop. He came home to us and told us when it happened, and that's the first thing he said to us was how disappointed he was that he let us down. He said they should have stopped the vehicle and just kicked him out. That's what he told us, and he was crying.
Right.
He was crying. He knew he didn't do the right thing.
Okay.
But he tried to do the right thing, but he didn't stop the car.
Your name?
Jared West, Your Honor.
So you're driving as a passenger in this car?
Yes, I was.
Do you drive?
Yes.
What kind of a car do you drive?
1993 Pontiac Trans Am.
What were you fooling around with the buttons for?
Well, what he forgot to mention was that on the way to Del Taco, he stopped off and he was driving through a grassy knoll and hopped a couple curbs and stuff. And I figured since he was going over a grassy knoll.
Going over a grassy knoll.
What
does that look like?
There was like a park type area behind a Save-On drugstore.
Mm-hmm.
And he had jumped over a curb and went onto the grass. And I figured since he was going on the grass and stuff that he might want to be on 4-wheel drive. And then he said he didn't want to, he didn't want me to do it. And it just, I'm sorry to say, it sort of turned into a game after that. I shouldn't have done it. I realize that.
Don't put your hands up, sir. You weren't there. Did you go over a grassy knoll and go over some curbs when you were driving this car?
Yes.
Why'd you do that for?
I just made a mistake.
So it sounds to me as if both of you boys were acting irresponsibly with this car. Is that right?
Yes.
I
Is
agree.
that right?
Yes, I agree.
Well, Mr. Knoll, this isn't a very, very difficult situation, sir. Some damage was caused to your car. I assume you have the bills to show me what the damage was. Is that right?
Yes, the car's in
Mr.
perfect
West, I
working
don't even need to
condition,
speak to you.
Yes, you do.
Well, just a second.
Okay.
The reason I don't need to speak to you, sir, is because you originally, according to these papers that I received, spoke to Mr. Knoll, and at that time you said to him, pretty much, that both boys were wrong, and that you were prepared to pay for half the damage that was caused to the car.
I did some
Didn't you?
brief investigation before I made that offer. After they declined my offer, I had to do some further investigations, which I can show the court now, which show that what my son did not cause damage to that car.
Oh, well, I'd like to hear that, sir.
Here's a copy of the Ford Motor Company manual. And in the Ford Motor Company manual, if I may read it,
Sure.
it says to you, it says, the spin on the transmission transverse case on this 1991 Ford Explorer allows the shift between second high and 4-wheel high to be made at any vehicle speed. Your Honor, once the car is engaged in 4-wheel drive, the way you disengage this car from 4-wheel drive is to back the car up in reverse. So by pressing the vehicle 4-wheel drive button once, twice, or many times, it doesn't disengage from 4-wheel drive until you back the car up, and that's how it disengages. So once you pressed it one time, it was in 4-wheel drive, and it continued 4-wheel drive until they later came to Jack in the Box. At that point, they backed up and they heard a ratcheting type sound from the vehicle. That's when it was coming out of 4-wheel drive.
Can I see the estimates that you have, please?
May I say something else, Your Honor?
Sure.
Chris is here to identify or to be witness to the fact that Ty has taken this vehicle to different parking lot locations, jumping curbs and parking barriers that he failed to mention to his dad also.
Mr. West, I wasn't there. You weren't there.
Correct.
This young man did something wrong. He's acknowledged that he did something wrong. your son acknowledged that he did something wrong. They both did something wrong because they were playing around with a very expensive piece of equipment that neither one of them bought or paid for, belonged to the plaintiff. Now, your mistake, Mr. Knoll, was that when you write here, the defendant offered a 50% settlement, which we rejected as a matter of principle since we didn't contribute in any way to the damage. That was a mistake. Your son contributed to the damage. He contributed to the damage in either one of two ways. Either because he, in fact, drove the car recklessly, and or he did not, at the moment that this young man decided to push the buttons on the car that he knew was wrong, he didn't take care of this expensive piece of property the way he should have, which was to stop the car and say, get out of the car. There's nothing to say. Anything that you say, sir, is going to be an excuse, which is wrong.
No, it's the truth. You're listening to some here, and I can't allow that to
Just
happen.
Mr. Knoll,
I just
I'm
need
not
to have
listening.
my say, that's all.
I'm not listening to anything. I'm not listening to what Ford Motor Company says, sir. I'm listening to what these two young men said.
Well,
And both of these boys seem to acknowledge that when they took your car out, they both did the wrong thing.
There's some lies over here, though. You haven't allowed him to speak what he saw.
Just a second. I listened to him. Let me tell you what he said, Mr. Knoll.
Judge Judy will continue in a moment. And later today,
If you buy them on the black market, you run the risk of getting tickets that are bogus. Now you know that, right?
real cases, real people. Judge Judy. Jim Noel says his 16-year-old son, Ty, was driving his 1991 Ford Explorer when Gary West's son, Jared, unexpectedly threw the truck into four-wheel drive, causing $1,300 worth of damage. Gary says he doesn't believe what Jared did could have caused that kind of damage and refuses to pay for the repairs.
He said, one, he drove the car over grassy knolls, up and down curbs, and he knew that was wrong.
No, one curb.
You weren't there, sir. You better stop making excuses for your son. He seems like a very honest young man. You
So
keep
am I.
making excuses for him, and I guarantee you, you're teaching him a very bad lesson. He's standing here, he's being truthful.
So am I.
No, you're not, because you weren't there. You're making excuses. And if you were savvy and know what was going on, how many children do you have?
2.
How old are they?
25, 16.
25-year-olds, a boy or a girl?
Girl.
Now you have a 16-year-old son. 16-year-old boys, when they're given a hot car, react differently than 16-year-old girls. So this is your first experience with a teenage son, right? Trust me, I've had 3 teenage sons. They all act like they're 4 years old, especially when they're in a car for the first time. 2 days he's had a license so that he could drive by himself. 2 days, and you give him your car. Stop making excuses for him, Mr. Knoll. The first, put your paper down, sir. Your son did the wrong thing. Without a 2-day trial with experts from Ford Motor Company and without mechanics here who were able to testify as to what the actual damage was and based upon their expertise what caused it, I have to rely on my sense of common sense. And don't say a word, and my sense of common sense is that your son did the wrong thing and that his son did the wrong thing. And the only one who's getting stuck is him, because it's his car and he's got to pay the damage. So the damage to the car, and I am one lug nut, let me just look through the rest of these things. Okay. The total damage to the car is $1,248. And, sir, I am awarding you $624, which is 1/2 the cost of the damage, because I believe that both of these young men contributed to this damage. Both of them did the wrong thing with your precious piece of metal. And next time you won't do it. Do you understand?
I understand.
That's all. Thank you.
All right, excuse me, you may step out. Out the back door to your right, please.
What my son did no damage to his car. I have nothing to say to this man. I don't care to shake your hand. I think you're a jerk.
Okay.
And now the next case.
Party's on Shank versus Beckman. Step forward, please.
18-year-old Troy Shank bought Metallica tickets from 26-year-old Robert Beckman. Troy didn't have the cash, so he gave Robert a guitar for collateral. Now Troy claims the tickets were bogus and wants his guitar back.
Mr. Shank, you wanted to see a concert.
Yes.
What concert was it?
It was a Metallica concert.
A what?
Metallica.
Metallica. What is
ma'am.
that?
It's a group.
Heavy metal band.
Why did you want to see that?
I like them.
According to your complaint, sir, the defendant here had some tickets for this Metallica
Yes.
concert. You wanted 3 tickets,
Yes.
but you didn't have any money.
Correct.
So you gave him a guitar as collateral for the
Correct.
tickets. What was the purchase price that you agreed on for the tickets?
$50 a piece. I wanted 3, so $150.
And you gave him the guitar.
Correct.
What happened?
It turned out later that the...
You went to the concert.
Yes.
What happened when you got there?
We went to the front. We showed them our passes and stuff, and they said that they were counterfeit, and they questioned us thoroughly where we got them, blah, blah, blah. But they took the tickets from us and didn't let us in. They kicked us out.
That was when you went to present them to the ticket taker.
Correct.
So you asked him for the guitar back.
No, after that night, I came home and paged Robert, and he never called me. I paged him previous lots of times for a numerous of probably 6 months, and he never called me back.
Yes.
Do you want to hear my side now? Okay, what it was is I gave him these tickets and he gave me the guitar as collateral.
I understand that.
he
Let's
did not-
go back a little further. Where did you get the tickets from?
I purchased them off of a student at Saddleback College.
And what did you pay for the tickets?
I paid $100 a piece for them. And then he wasn't supposed to owe me $150. He was supposed to owe me $350. The problem was he was supposed to pay me a week before the concert. After the concert, I finally get this letter of court. He calls me and says, well, do you have any, like a VCR or TV or anything you can give me as collateral? I said, why? You know, you didn't, how do I know you didn't get into the show? I got on the show, my girlfriend got on the show, my brother got on the show. How do I know you did not get in?
You may have had somebody who let you in and wasn't looking carefully. They didn't. They had a problem.
I don't understand. I don't understand how they could have a problem.
They had a problem, sir.
Out of all the people that I know that went, everyone got in but them.
When you buy tickets from the concert itself, when you go up to the gate and give them money and buy tickets, then you know you're getting legitimate tickets. If you buy them on the black market, which is from somebody at school, you run the risk of getting tickets that are bogus. Now you know that, right?
Judge Judy continues in a moment.
What do you want to be when you grow up?
I'm not sure yet. A lawyer.
I would suggest you not decide on the ministry, sir.
Real cases, real people. Judge Judy. Troy Shank claims the concert tickets he got from Robert Beckman were counterfeit. He wants the replacement value of a guitar he gave him for collateral.
I believe the fact that you didn't get in with these tickets, and the law is very clear. You had a contract. You were going to pay the money to go to the concert.
Correct.
That's your contract. They didn't get into the concert, and therefore they got nothing in return for their money or their guitar, so you have to give them back the guitar. Do you understand?
I don't have the guitar anymore.
Why not?
I sold it for the money that they owed me.
They didn't owe you any money.
Well, what the...
Let me see the receipt.
I don't have the receipt.
You don't have the receipt, you don't have the guitar. When did you sell the guitar?
Probably about a month after the concert.
But they buzzed you, they paged you immediately.
Well, that night, I did not have my pager on me. I'd never take my pager to a concert. So, I mean, how would I return it?
You got as many excuses as Carter has pills, sir. I don't want to tell you something. Unless you straighten out, this isn't the last court you're going to be in. Do you understand what I'm saying to you?
Yes, I do. But the agreement was he was supposed to pay me a week before the concert. He did not pay me my money a week before the concert.
Well, let us assume.
So
let me tell you. Let me tell you why, Mr. Beckman. You're standing there and I'm sitting here. Let me explain why. If I believed your story that the concert tickets were more than what they claim, and if they paged you, you would have called them back lickety-split because you would have thought to yourself, he's calling to make arrangements to pay me the money that he owes me. That's what would have gone on in my head if somebody owed me money. I better answer this page right away because I want to get my money. You, however, didn't have a page. You lost your page. You were busy. It was raining. It was snowing. a whole bunch of other excuses why you didn't return his page. And the truth of the matter is, you knew that there was trouble. Because there's no other reason for you not to have returned this page. All right, so you're guilty as charged. Now, the next question I have is, this bill for $1,000 for a guitar seems to me inflated. So let's talk about it.
Okay. The guitar.
How much did you pay for the guitar and when?
I paid $748 for it.
Let me see the bill.
I do not have the receipt. My mom is here to testify. She's the one who bought it.
Fine. I'd like to hear from her. You sit down. Could you step up, please?
I have a...
Don't give me A. You have a mother.
Okay.
Mothers, I believe. Tell me your name.
Hi, I'm Anita Shank, Troy's mother.
Did you purchase this guitar?
Yes, I did.
And when did you purchase it for him?
In '95.
How much did you pay for it?
Approximately $800.
He says $748. Does
Yeah.
that sound right?
Yes.
Okay. You look like a nice young man who may have a bright future. Don't try to be a shortcut artist.
Well,
it never pays off, sir.
Judge Judy will continue in a moment.
Your Honor, may I say something?
Sure.
Okay. When I gave him the guitar, it was in a guitar case, and inside that case was a guitar tuner, a guitar pedal, and a metronome, which I have the retail value, and that's why I sued for $1,000. It came over all that stuff that I gave him.
Why did you give him all that stuff?
The guitar was in a guitar case, and the guitar case has like a little pouch. I just keep my guitar stuff in there, and that was the only thing worth value. I just gave him the whole set. So that's why I'm suing for $1,000.
Did it have all of that equipment in it?
I don't know.
What?
I didn't even bother to look in it. I mean, it was just collateral for the tickets, you know?
That's why I was suing
No,
for
I
$1,000.
understand it was collateral for the tickets, but again, you want me to believe that somebody gave you collateral, you sold it, and when you sold it, you didn't open up the case, didn't show it to anybody.
I looked in it. I mean, it just had like the strap for the guitar and, you know, little whammy things for the guitar and stuff like that.
Do you go to school?
Yes, I do.
College?
Yeah.
What do you mean? Yeah. What is
yes?
Yeah.
Yes, Your Honor.
What do you want to be when you grow up?
I'm not sure yet. A lawyer.
I would suggest you not decide on the ministry, sir. Judgment in this case is for the plaintiff and the amount requested, $1,000. That's all.
Parties are excused. You may step out.
Judge Judy will continue.
6 on the calendar in the matter of Perez versus Perez. Parties have been sworn in, Judge. You may be seated. Have a seat.
You are the present Mrs. Perez.
Yes, I am.
Mr. Perez, you are Mrs. Perez, the former wife of this gentleman.
Yes, ma'am.
Correct?
Yes, ma'am.
According to your complaint, former Mrs. Perez assaulted you.
Yes, she did.
You want damages.
Yes.
She has a counterclaim. She claims that you assaulted her first. She wants similar damages.
No, Your Honor, I didn't do that, anything.
Well, this took place when you were returning the children. There are 2 children?
Yes.
Three
Actually, there's
children.
3 children. To your home after a period of visitation.
Yes.
Is that? So tell me what happened.
Well, we went to go drop off the boys.
How old are the children?
One's 10 and one's 7. We only had the 2 boys with us at the time. We went to go drop them off. It was late that night. My husband wanted to talk to her concerning one of the boys being sexually abused. He spoke with her, tried to work things out, talked to her. She started getting mad. She charged at him, started screaming back and forth at each other. I got in the middle because of the fact that the children were crying and screaming inside the home. I told my husband, let's go so it won't get out of hand, which she got mad. She struck me on my right side, and after that, my husband did hit her, and she landed inside her house.
Well, when you say she struck you, did she strike you with a fist, her open hand? How did
I didn't see when it was coming. I don't know how she hit me, but she hit me.
Did you have any injuries?
Yes, I did.
What were your injuries?
My jaw shifted. She hit me on the right side, which it shifted my lower jaw to over here, which now I have a torn joint in my jaw, which I have doctor proofs in here. And he did make a little notation on here, what I sustained from it.
How long have you been married to your husband?
I've been with him for 4 years, 3-4 years.
And how long have you been divorced?
4 years.
What was this discussion about one of the children being sexually abused?
During the weekend, we had them, their son told us what was going on. My husband called the health and welfare, called the police department, tried to get something done. They said they couldn't do anything about it unless the child was endangered over there, which when we got to their residence, the other child was there at the time, and my husband...
You mean there was some allegation, according to you, that there was another child in the defendant's residence who had been sexually abusing
their children.
Their children. Both boys or just one? And you wanted to talk to her about it?
Yes. Because this had happened before, like about 2 years before.
Step up here.
Yes, because this had happened before, like about 2 years before. I brought it to her attention, and then she like didn't let me see the kids for about a year.
That's absolutely untrue.
She said that I guess they had taken care of it. I called the health and welfare and everything. They never got back to me. And that's why this ended up like this.
Well, why did you pick this particular time to speak to her when you took the children back?
It's the only time when I drop them off, when there's a chance to talk to her, because I really don't talk to her. Yeah.
Well, that's unfortunate.
Yeah.
That's very unfortunate that the two of you can't talk. Did you put your hands on her that evening?
After
is not an answer. Yeah.
Yes. Yes, I did. I hit her.
Why did you hit her?
Because she started charging at me, telling me all this. She took out the little boy that has been sexually abusing my boy. He's like about 5, 6 years older. And she made him confront him. She put them both in front of each other. My little boy, he was shaking. He was scared because he was going to get beat up by this little boy. And it's still going to happen. And he was scared. And she started screaming like, what? After she hit my wife, she said, what, are you going to hit him? And I said, no, I'm going to hit you. And that's what happened. I did. I struck her.
How many times?
I don't remember. All I remember is I lost it. It must have been like 3, 4 times.
Were you arrested?
Yes, I was. Yeah.
He has been charged.
And
he has been
my
paid
wife even pulled me off of her because she didn't want that to happen, but still did.
She did not touch her, Your Honor.
Shh. How old is this other little boy that's in the house, and how is he related to your former wife?
He's her nephew. Yeah. And
How old is he?
He's like about 13, 14.
He's
my little
11.
boy's like 7.
He's 11 years old.
It's 11?
Yes.
Okay, let me come to you. I'd like you to tell me your version of the events of that evening.
Your Honor, can I have the girl stepped out for a minute? I mean, there's some sections here that I would rather them not hear.
Are these your daughters?
This is my daughter, and this is her friend.
Absolutely.
Yes, please.
Step out.
Just for a minute, and because there's some issues that before, and it involves one of my daughters, and I would rather her not be present when I talk about it. I divorced Mr. Perez because of violence.
Domestic violence.
Yes. During the divorce, because it was really hectic for my children, I took them to counseling. And in one of the counseling sessions, my daughter revealed to the counselor that she was being molested by her grandfather, paternal grandfather.
Paternal?
Yes.
Grandfather.
That was reported to the police and
That's not true.
and whatnot. Mr. Perez in turn countered that and started saying, at this time my nephew was 7 years old, my son was 6, and my other son was 4. In order to get back at me, he started saying that my 7-year-old was molesting my 6 and my 4-year-old. They called child services. We took all the children in for interviewing. And it was determined that the kids were playing. You show me yours, you show me mine. It was that kind of relationship that, at that time. Now, they come to my house that day and saying that my child had told her child, made a comment to her child. I talked to my little boy about this, and we have taken him to counseling also regarding this.
Why did you take him to counseling?
Because they've been so traumatized by all this. You have to understand, Your Honor, these people have been torturing me for 4 years. I mean, between taking me to court, I have been to court about 20 times since I divorced. For protection orders, for getting beaten up, for modification of child support, for everything.
Okay.
Anyway, we were at the house that day. I didn't have any milk, so I had to run to the store. I left my daughter and Veronica in charge. They were there. They came and dropped off the boys, and I wasn't home. I was at the store getting milk, and then I wasn't home. So they called the police on me again, because they called the police on me for everything, saying that the kids were unattended.
So let me understand this. You dropped the children off and then you called the police.
Judge Judy continues in a moment.
They didn't ask to be born. You made them, and your primary responsibility is supposed to see to it that they have happy childhoods.
Real cases, real people. Judge Judy. Diana Perez is being sued by her ex-husband's new wife, 22-year-old Christina Perez. Christina charges that Diana hit her in the jaw, causing serious injury. But Diana says she was only defending herself.
You dropped the children off, and then you called the police.
No, we didn't drop the children off at that time with the girls. My husband wanted to talk to her regarding their children.
So you kept the children in the car?
Yes, we went to the police department.
Mr. Perez, so you didn't drop the children off?
No.
You put the children back in the car, or they remained in the car?
Yes.
And you drove directly to the police station? Yes. And what did you tell the police?
I just told them that she's not there, because she always does this. I'm supposed to drop them off at 7. It was
Just
already
a second.
12 o'clock.
Just a second. What did you tell the police? I didn't ask your whole history.
Okay, I just told them that basically that's it. That I went to drop them off. I already went like about 4 times. She's not there. And in the divorce decree, it says that I should drop them off at 7, pick them up at 7, and drop them off at 7. That's what it was all about.
How old are these 2 girls?
I think my daughter's 13. I don't know about the other one. I don't even know who she is.
Your daughter is 13?
12.
Or 12, going to 13.
And your 2 sons that you were dropping off?
That time he was 6, and the other one's like 9.
9 and 6?
Yes.
Why couldn't their sister watch them?
We could have left her off, but I wanted to talk to her.
You could have left them off?
Yes.
Now you drove back at 10, and you say she wasn't home at 10. Did you go back to the police again?
No, we called them up.
Called
from our
who?
home, the police department from our home, to let them know that she wasn't home yet and what was going on. We let them know, and they told us we would have to get a hold of the health and welfare.
Just a second. At 10 o'clock, the girls were home.
Yes.
So why didn't you bring the children home instead of calling the police?
Because he wanted to talk to Diana concerning the boys.
It wasn't urgent to talk to her that night. Certainly not urgent enough to call the police. You folks, I don't know about what's happening on her side, the history of what's going on there, but you people are not behaving like responsible parents. You're behaving like vindictive babies. And you're putting your children in the middle, because whenever you bring the police into something, you put the children in the middle. Ridiculous.
Excuse me, Your Honor. The only reason I bring the police into it because there's been a lot of occasions where I get busy or something, and she calls the police department.
That's
and
terrible.
They want to pick me up.
Just a second. You mean you get busy and don't bring the children home on time?
More like I only see him like sometimes she doesn't really let me see him for 3 or 4 months.
Mr.
So when
Perez.
I do see him, I try to take him out, go do something.
Mr. Perez, I'm hearing a lot of excuses from this end. Now, I don't agree with using children, custodial parents, if they happen to be mothers using the children. I just don't like the vibes that I'm getting over here, sir. Something in my common sense and my training suggests to me that there's a lot more here than I'm going to have time to hear today. How much child support do you pay?
$360 a month.
When was the last time you went back to have that modified?
I'm supposed to be in court tomorrow.
For what?
Modification on it.
Whose modification?
Mine, I guess, yeah.
What do you mean you guess?
Yeah, well, it's mine.
It's your petition to modify downward the order of support?
Yes.
From $360 a month?
Yes.
For 3 children?
Yes.
Why?
Because where I used to work before, I used to make a lot more money, and they closed the plant. I'm out of that job, so I ended up, to be able to pay the child support, I could have got unemployment, but I figured, no, I got to pay my child support, so I went and got another job. It went like 2.5 less an hour, so that's why I'm getting the modification.
How many times have you gone for modification? Mr. Perez, how many modification petitions have you filed in the last 4 years?
This is it.
This is the second one.
4.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Now, I would like to see The initial police report from you, Mrs. Perez. Can I see it, please? What was the date of this incident, by the way?
The ended up being on the 25th, because it was late that night, so they did 24th, 25th.
Okay. Now let me see the medical bill, please.
These are...
Were you arrested that night, sir?
Yes, ma'am. I knew I did wrong, so I just went and turned myself in.
Judge Judy continues in a moment.
And this is what I looked like after I got beat up by him.
It would have been worse, Diana. He could have killed you there.
Real cases, real people. Judge Judy. Gabriel Perez's current wife, Christina Perez, is suing Gabriel's ex-wife, Diana Perez, claiming Diana assaulted her during an argument. Diana says her ex-husband injured her.
You didn't go to see a doctor until 2 days after this incident. Mrs. Perez, is that right?
I went right the next day, Your Honor.
No. 2 days later. This happened on the 24th. You went and just
Actually, it was the 25th, late that night. And the police officer did neglect me medical attention, so I had to go on my own.
He neglected?
Yes, he did.
Did you go to the doctor before or after your husband was arrested for assault?
I went after.
Yeah, I got it. Now, I understand it. You don't get $5,000 for a slap. I don't see anything here about injuries, madam. And I don't know why you got in between these two people. I have no idea. You had no business being there. You had no business getting in between these two people. Now, you, with regard to your counterclaim, are suing the wrong person.
Pardon me?
You're suing the wrong person.
Oh.
He's the one you should be suing.
I know.
He was the one who injured you. And according to the police reports here, you were pretty severely beaten. He sort of acknowledges that he severely beat you. He lost it. I assume that it's not the first time he lost it.
No.
Yes, it was.
Baloney.
Never hit her before.
Well, then maybe the other times that you hit her,
I've
you
never
hit her
hit
on
her before.
purpose.
I've never hit her before.
You two people present a very sad commentary on what happens when people separate. You are remarried, you have a new wife. You have any new children with your new wife?
Yes, I do.
How many children?
2.
2. Do you work?
Yes, I do.
So you work inside the house or outside
Inside the house.
In the house.
Mhm.
What do you do?
I have a child daycare, which I am licensed to have one.
Fine.
I
Oh,
went to
that's
school
good.
for it.
That's good. All right, because I assume you know he has prior financial obligations to the 3 children that he had before
Yes,
he
Your
made
Honor,
more children.
I've been divorced before. I know how it goes. I was dealing with her before with the child custody of the kids so they could visit their father. I would talk for both of them.
Well, that's a big
Yes,
mistake.
it is a big mistake.
Big
which
mistake.
I tried to get them to do
especially
it.
when, Mrs. Perez, it's a big mistake, especially when a portion of your husband's salary is going to support his other 3 children. And there's not a lot of money to go around, so that makes you a little bit irritated.
I know he has obligations, which
Well-
is okay with me, because $360 a month is not even hardly enough to support
It
the
sure
children.
isn't, especially when he's going to have it reduced. $360 for 3 children a month doesn't keep a cocker spaniel in puppy chow. Certainly not 3 growing children. So, I don't believe she injured you, madam. I don't believe that this slap, which you refer to as a slap, caused you any injury whatsoever. Let me tell you what I think.
Judge Judy is ready to rule.
What I think is that you got very nervous when your husband lost it and was arrested for assaulting her because he assaulted her and you know he injured her.
Yes,
because,
I know that's right.
Because,
I tried to
because
prevent
according
it.
to these reports, there was blood all over the place. According to the reports by the police, there was blood all over the place. So then I believe that you and your husband came up with this story to try to soften it a little bit, that she was the one who instigated the whole thing by assaulting you. Now, you are not denied assistance by the police. There were no visible signs of any injury on you when the police arrived. None whatsoever. Your case is dismissed. You, on the other hand, madam, are suing the wrong person civilly. He's the one you ought to be suing. I suggest that you do it so that you can get damages from him, so the next time he loses his temper, he'll know it's going to cost him.
Yes, ma'am.
As far as your children are concerned, you got to do the right thing with regard to your children. If he has a legitimate concern with regard to what's going on in your house with a now 12 or 13-year-old, you have to take that very seriously.
Yes, I do.
And you have to stop thinking that it's just in retaliation. If it's true that when he confronted you with this allegation, you put both boys together, very bad thing to do. You have to be protective of your own child.
Yes, definitely.
And make sure that this is not going on in your home, because very often parents are the last to know.
Definitely.
You have to stop abusing the system, sir. Abusing the police system, abusing the child welfare system, in order to gain an upper hand in whatever kind of proceedings you have, whether they be support proceedings, whether they be visitation proceedings, whether they be custody proceedings. And the two of you have to recognize that together you made 3 children. The 3 children are the innocents. They didn't ask to be born. You made them. And your primary responsibility is supposed to see to it that they have happy childhoods. And right now, you're not doing that. That's all.
Parties are excused. You may step out.
Judge Judy continues in a moment.
Judge, it's number 220 on the calendar, the matter of Coleman versus Smith. Parties have been sworn in, Judge. You may be seated.
All right, Miss Coleman, you say that Mr. Smith stole your car.
Yes.
He said he borrowed it with your permission. In any event, the car, something happened to it, it was damaged. You want to get paid?
Yes.
So first let's start on the 27th of June, which is when this whole thing came down, I understand. He took the keys from your house.
Yes.
Tell me how that happened.
I had got home from work early this day, and the maintenance man, name is Derek, asked me if I could run him and Mr. Smith up to cash their check.
He was a neighbor of yours?
Yes, he's a neighbor. And so I did this and came back home, and I knew I was going out that evening, so I came in to change, to get ready. So while I was in the house changing, Mr. Smith rang my bell. I asked who it was, and it was him. He responded, so I went to the door and let him in. So we were down there talking, and I noticed that I have a countertop in my living room that the keys were laying there. So I went back upstairs and told him that I was getting ready to go out that evening, and I left him downstairs. So anyway, as I got ready to come back down to leave, I noticed that my keys weren't on the counter anymore. So I figured, well, maybe I took them back upstairs. And I went back upstairs, and I didn't see the keys up there either. And I checked all in my pocketbook, and I couldn't find my keys.
Didn't find the keys? So did you call the police?
I called the police that evening because I waited to see maybe he would bring the car back. So I waited and waited, and I did finally call the police and report the car stolen that evening.
Now, that was June 27th?
June 27th.
When did you get the car back?
My niece found the car June 29th, which was a Sunday.
And what was the condition of the car when it was found?
Trying to move the car wouldn't move.
Okay, so it was damaged.
So it was damaged.
Well, he acknowledges that the car was damaged while you were driving it, sir. Now, why don't you tell me your version of how you got possession of these keys?
Ms. Coleman and I, we live 2 doors apart from each other.
Had you been friends before this happened?
Yes, we were. Yes, we were. We were also seeing each other.
No,
and
we weren't,
probably starting what I would call the start of a relationship.
What do you mean?
She and I had spent time in each other's house a couple of times, having dinner, ice cream, these sort of things.
That's nice.
I've used the car before, and I've driven the car and brought it back.
With her permission?
With her permission. I had asked her, could I use the car to make an errand to my mother's house? My mother lives in walking distance, 10 minutes, and driving, it's 2 minutes. The car was parked 4 blocks away from my mother's house.
Just a second. You asked her, according to you, you asked her if you could ride to an errand to your mother's house.
Yes, I did.
You didn't tell me what she said.
She said yes. She gave me the keys, which was a full set of keys. At that time...
And you intended to be back in...
In moments, because she had told me she...
You intended to be back in moments, and you knew she was going out?
Yes, I did.
Okay.
She gave me the keys. Her and the landlord were standing on the pavement talking as I got into the car and exited the block. About 5 minutes into the journey after the car, I stopped at the intersection. I tried to engage the shifter to go on. The car wouldn't move. It didn't
All right,
respond.
you knew at that point, to make a long story a little shorter, you knew at that point that there was something wrong with the car.
Yes.
What did you do then?
I had a friend who was with me.
Which friend was with you?
A gentleman I picked up.
Just a second. A gentleman you picked up where?
This was on the block of my mother's house. The
Who
street
was
where
that?
my mother lived at.
Who was that?
It was a gentleman named Boo.
Boo.
Right.
Does Boo have a last name?
Boo Rogers, yes he does.
What'd you pick up Boo for?
He was going in the same direction I was coming back. So I
you
was
had
giving him a lift.
So what you're saying to me was you had already been at your mother's house.
Yes.
So you did the errand at your mother's
Yes, I
house
did.
already. You sure about that?
Yes.
Go ahead. And you're on your way back with Boo in the car.
Right.
Go ahead.
The car broke down at the intersection. We both got out. We pushed the car. At that time, I'm not knowing too much about cars. I asked him. He didn't know too much about cars. So I went to a payphone. I called a friend who did know about cars. He came and checked the car out. He told me, Mike.
Why didn't you call her?
Well, at that particular time, I wanted to see what was wrong with the car.
Now listen, Mr. Smith, let's talk logic here, sir. You said you were going to be back in 2 minutes. You knew she was going out. Now you're out for well beyond 2 minutes. You pick up Boo. Then you call one friend. The person that you don't call is the person whose car it is, who has to go out, and you know that she was going out. So I don't understand why you didn't pick up the phone and say, I'm going to try to fix the car. I'm having some trouble with it.
I agree with you.
Good. I'm glad you do. It makes me feel better. Go ahead.
Thank you. So the gentleman came, we looked at the car, and he told me that the clutch was dry. It needed hydraulic clutch fluid.
Okay, so then what did you do?
Well, we tried
Now
to
we're looking for fluid.
Right.
We got Boo and we got fluid.
Exactly. I tried to get the fluid.
How did you try to get the fluid, sir?
We went to an auto supply store.
And how far away from where the car was?
It was a
that?
distance.
How about how far, sir?
10-minute ride.
How'd you get there?
In his car. The gentleman who came to look at the car, who was a
Just a
mechanic.
minute. Let me understand this. All this time you haven't called her yet.
No, I haven't.
Keep going.
That was it.
And so what'd you do?
Upon not getting the car started, again, I did not call her. I went home. I tried to contact her then.
How did you try to contact her?
By calling her on the phone.
And what happened?
I got no answer.
I'm having too good a time with this, please. Tell it to me. So you tried to contact her, you called her, and there was no answer.
Exactly.
So I assume you wrote out a note.
No, I did not.
Because you're right next
No,
door.
I
You
did
wrote
not.
out a note and you say, don't worry about your car, it broke down, here's where it's located. You went and tacked it on a door.
No, I did not.
No, you did not.
Judge Judy continues in a moment.
The reason why I sued him for that because
to teach him a lesson.
Yes.
And later today,
So you made trouble between her and her son. You were a pig about the money that you won. You really are nasty.
real cases, real people. Judge Judy. 39-year-old Vanessa Coleman says Theodore Smith stole her car and returned it 2 days later with extensive damages. Theodore says Vanessa gave him permission to take the car and denies any responsibility for the damage.
It's not really urgently important, Miss Coleman. Listen to me. It's not urgently important whether he drove the car with or without your permission. He's responsible for the damage to your car. Now, I don't think he can look me in the eye and deny that, right, sir?
I agree with you.
Right. So, did you have the car fixed?
Oh, yes.
Let me see the repair bill. When did you finally tell her where the car was?
Never.
I didn't. The car was recovered Sunday morning. I woke up, came out, the car was in front of her house.
Weren't you curious as to how she found it?
Not really. No. No.
I don't understand these bills, Miss Coleman.
Okay,
Let's understand.
the
I don't
little
understand them either,
the
Yana.
short bill is the actual estimate that all the damages that I had done to the car. The other estimate is just for the damage that he did, which was to the clutch and the shifter.
Well, $460. Is that what you paid for the damage that he did?
I paid 900 and what is it, 945?
Yeah,
I
but
paid
you
for
know,
all
you're not talking
damages.
about a wheel alignment and front brakes.
See, I didn't
and
charge
outer
him.
seats.
I didn't charge him for that. I just charged him for the clutch and the shifter.
But she's suing me for $945.
Just a second.
And the reason why I sued him for that because
to teach him a lesson.
Yes, he denied. he denied to pay me anything except for the $60 he gave me.
He gave you $60?
He gave me $60.
What'd you give her $60 for, sir?
The first day that this had happened and she told me she was putting the car in the shop,
yeah.
I said, okay, I'm going to give you some money to start on. This is initial payment. Give me a receipt and I'll pay the rest gladly.
Right.
She never gave me a receipt. She refused to give me a receipt. This happened
All right, got it. Listen, Miss Coleman. He has to pay for the damage he did on the car. If I could
Thank you.
add on a couple of bucks for bad manners, you know, I would do that, but that's not what we're about.
Yes.
He's got to pay for the damage he did to the car, $460.
Yes.
And I would suggest to you, if you ever made a loan to him of your car or anything else that you value.
Never in.
What?
Never.
Right.
You know it.
Thank you very much. That's all.
Parties are excused. You may step out.
Thank you.
I'll be back to you right.
Thank you.
And now the next case.
Parties on Travis versus Hood. Step forward, please.
Avid bingo player, 57-year-old Fanny Travis, is suing her son's girlfriend, Betty Hood, claiming they made a deal to split a $10,000 bingo jackpot if either of them won. Betty denies they had any agreement.
Miss Travis, you are an avid bingo player.
Yes, I am.
And the defendant used to be your friend.
My son's girlfriend.
According to your complaint, you were playing bingo one night back in August.
Yeah.
And you played together, you and the defendant, and your daughter,
My daughter.
and a couple of other people.
Not the one, not her. She's not here.
Another daughter.
Another daughter.
And then there was advertised a super bingo party for September.
Yes.
And you had to buy packs of $50 worth of bingo cards.
That's right.
So you say you bought packs of cards for several people, including the defendant.
That's right.
And it was your agreement with her that what?
If anybody won, I would get half of the winning.
And then she won.
She won.
$10,000.
Right.
Bingo. She gave you $1,000
Right.
and said, I'm not giving you any more.
No, she never said that.
What did she say?
The people at the bingo was going to count me the $5,000. You only get $5,000 that night. The next $5,000 we had to come back that Monday. It was on a Saturday night. So they was finna give me the money because the bingo staff knew I had bought all the cards. I told them to count it to her. At the time, they counted out $1,000. She gave me the $1,000, and they gave me the slip and told me to come back Monday and pick up the rest of the money. And in the car, I gave her the slip and told her to wait. Monday, I'll go with you, and I want the rest of my money.
All right, you gave her the slip.
And told her in the car, I gave her the slip and told her I would go with her Monday and pick up the rest of my money.
Okay, so you said, I'll go with you Monday.
And pick up the rest of the money.
Okay, and what happened?
She dodged me all day Monday. I was at bingo waiting on her. She went out late Monday night. Had my grandkids tell me that Dad and Betty told us not to tell you that they gone to bingo. So she went out and picked up the money. When I got my son Monday night on the phone, he made a statement, you made $1,000 profit off of her. I said that was not the agreement. She made a $9,000 profit off of me because we were supposed to split. So that I finally got her Tuesday night and asked her for my money. She said, I spent it. And I said, no, I want my money. You knew it wasn't all you were suspended. Then I called my son. He came on the next day, which was a Tuesday. I went and filed, Wednesday, I'm sorry, I went and filed a claim on her. Then my son came into the house the first time in his 33-year-old life, cursed me like a dog, saying that if I go through with it, he wasn't going to be my son no more.
Judge Judy continues in a moment.
You're not a very nice young lady. She didn't know you a thing. Who are you to her? Nobody.
Real cases, real people. Judge Judy. Fanny Travis says she made a deal with Betty Hood that they would split a $10,000 bingo jackpot if either of them won. Betty denies they had any such arrangement and feels she was being generous by giving Fanny $1,000 of her winnings.
Before she got the bingo cards, according to you and according to your daughter, you told her that if you win, half is mine.
Yes.
Is that correct? Before she had the cards in her possession.
Correct.
Okay, Betty, let's hear your version of this.
When she won that $2,500 that night, she was giving me and her daughter $100. And she said out that 100, that 50 go for that package. I did not hear no split winning. And now she's saying for that, when I won the $10,000, that they gave her the receipt, they did not give her the receipt. I signed for that receipt that night. That's the only way that money came to me. I had the receipt in my belongings.
Well, my question is, you say that the previous month, she won some money.
Yes.
And very generously gave you $100. Only gave you $50 in cash and then bought the other packet for the other $50.
Right.
Is that what you're saying? Mm-hmm. Did that happen?
No. I only gave her 50. She didn't even know I was buying these packs. She never knew I was buying these packs until 3 weeks later.
That's very generous of you to give him anything. Mm-hmm. I mean, you don't have to give him anything. Why did you give her $1,000?
Just being generous.
You had a conversation with the plaintiff that night, the night that you won the $10,000, correct?
Correct.
And she made it clear to you, after you won, let's not say before, after you won, that she expected half of your winnings. Is that right?
Correct.
Did you say to her that night, I'm not going to give you half the winnings?
No, I said you must be joking.
No. Let me ask you this question, Miss Hood.
Mm-hmm.
Does this sound familiar? That when you were leaving that night, and she said to you that should anybody win with cards that she bought, there would be a 50-50 split. And you said, we ain't gonna win no way anyway. Does that sound familiar to you?
I say that all the time.
I asked you on that night, did that sound familiar to you?
Okay, what was the question again?
You said, we ain't gonna win no way anyway.
Right.
Isn't that what you said?
Right.
Judge Judy is ready to rule.
You're not a very nice young lady, Miss Hood. First of all, you've made trouble between this lady and her son.
No, I did not.
Oh, sure you did. Oh, sure you did. First of all, just by being there that night, by breathing that night in September, you were coming away $5,000 richer. You didn't make an investment. You didn't buy the cards. You didn't plan the evening. Nothing. She gave it to you. And she was generous to you at other times, too. She didn't know you a thing, except that you're the mother of at least one of her grandchildren. So she was being nice to you, and I assume she's a generous lady anyway. So you made trouble between her and her son. You were a pig about the money that you won. Absolutely did the wrong thing. And Miss Hood, life has a strange way of coming up and biting you in the back if you do the wrong thing. What you did over money, by destroying this little family, she had a son who she never had a harsh word with. And I assume she did other things. She ever babysit for you?
Yes.
You had to run to the doctor or something? Had to run someplace else? You took care of your son? Yes?
Yes.
You really are nasty. Judgment in this case is for the plaintiff for the amount of $4,000. You already got your $1,000? $4,000. That's all.
Parties are excused. You may step out. Judge, this is case number 283 on the calendar in the matter of Johnson versus McDermott.
Thank you, sir.
Parties have been sworn in. You may be seated. Have a seat, please.
Mr. Johnson, according to your complaint, sir, you and the defendant were dating briefly. She had an accident in the car she was driving. Is the car your car?
It was my parents' car.
What kind of car was it?
It was a Mazda 626.
New?
No, it was an 83.
You got into an accident with the car. According to you, Mr. Johnson, the defendant came to you and she was very upset.
Yep, scared of her dad's reaction, didn't know what she'd do. And I said, I know someone who can fix her car. Brought it over there and got it fixed. And while she said that she didn't have the money, I said, I could let you borrow the money. She said, sure, that'd be great. But at first she denied it. She's like, no, don't do that for me. Please don't do that. I was like, all right, well, just if you need the money, and when you start your job, you can start paying me back. She's like, all right, because she was scared of what her dad was going to do. Got her car fixed. 2 days later, after that, she split on me in so many words, like our relationship ended. And for about 1.5 years, I tried getting in contact with her maybe like 10 times in a total of 1.5 years, and I never got a response back to her.
Mr. Johnson, let's go back a little bit because you sort of fluffed over this oral contract that you had with her that you're suing on, sir. She came to your house and she said she was very upset.
Well, she was crying and stuff. She didn't
So
know what
far,
she was
he's
going to do.
correct.
She did not know what she was going to do.
So far, he's correct.
She's correct to the point where he just said that he said he'd lend me the money, and he never said that. He told me that he had a friend that owed him favors and that he would get it fixed. And I said...
Yeah, for cheaper.
No, you never
Don't
said
interrupt.
that.
Go ahead.
And so I was like, I was really scared. I was in shock. I just got an accident. And I said, no, because I don't have money to get it fixed. I'm just going to have to tell my dad. And then he didn't want me to get in trouble. So he said, no, we'll get it fixed. So we took it to the shop, got it fixed.
When you took it to the shop, was there any discussion about $600?
Not until he was going to get it fixed, and then the guy said it'll be $600.
So there was discussion about $600.
Yes.
So.
And then Dino, I looked at Dino, and he said, no, they're going to take care of it. Because he said the guy owed him a lot of favors.
That's not true.
But then it didn't hit me until we were on our way home, and I asked him who's going to pay for it. And he said, I will. And I said, no, I don't want you to pay for it. Take it out of the shop. And he didn't. And
so you said to him, take it out of the shop?
Yeah, I asked him to call them.
And he said what?
He said, no, don't worry about it. They'll take care of it.
So you didn't say to him, take me right back to the shop and let's get it out of the shop?
I asked him to. I
But
said,
he
take me
didn't.
over there or call them. And he didn't.
But then there came a time when you went back and picked up this car. Is that right?
Yes.
A fixed car?
Yes.
Did you pay for the car, sir?
Yes, I did. $600. She was there.
Let me see proof of that.
She told me that when she was able to get a job, she would pay me back. I said, little payments are fine, whenever. And she was like, okay, I'm going to pay you back, even when we were like breaking up or whatever we had together.
Who signed for this?
I did. I've taken many cars to Miguel.
Miguel, that's the name of this person?
Miguel's Auto Body Shop.
Good. Let me make a call. Is this Miguel? Miguel, this is Judge Judy Scheindlin. Do you know who I am? Well, I'm a judge who is hearing a case that has something to do with your auto body shop. And I have a couple of questions to ask you. Do you have a moment for me? Good. Do you know someone by the name of Dino Johnson? Yes. He says he's brought many customers to your shop. And this has to do with a car that was brought to you, a 1983 Mazda in 1995. He says he came in with a young woman who had been in an accident with her car. Yes? Well, could you tell me what you remember about that, sir? Right, so 2 or 3 weeks ago he came in and he asked you for a bill. Right, because I'm looking at this bill and it doesn't look as if it's a couple of years old. It looks like it's a relatively new bill. And it says here, sir, there's something that's circled, and it said that you were paid in cash. So how did you know it was $600? Is not an answer, Miguel. Okay, Miguel, you've been very cooperative. Thank you very much, sir. Bye-bye.
Judge Judy continues in a moment.
I said, well, I don't think my husband would have murdered his daughter. And I said, I would have been able to handle that.
And later today.
You know, you got to remember what you write down, Mr. Barth.
Gotcha.
Always comes back to bite you in the behind.
Real cases, real people. Judge Judy. Dean Johnson is suing his former girlfriend, Nicole McDermott, because he gave her money to fix her car, and she never repaid him. Nicole says Dean is angry because she broke up with him and started dating his friend.
Now, Mr. Johnson, one of the reasons I went to make a phone call is this didn't look like something you had had around for 2.5 years. So Miguel seemed to know all about this lawsuit. I figured maybe he has no business because 2.5 years go by. Boy, he remembered everything, like she was your girlfriend and then broke up with you, and he knew the whole story. That led me to believe that you had been there more recently.
Yeah, because my mechanic is right next door.
No, because you needed a new bill.
Yeah, and I got a new bill, and she was there when I paid for it.
Now, just a second. You got a
I'm
new
just
bill.
telling you.
Shh. You got a new bill. This he gave you a couple of weeks ago. This was not the original bill. He has no invoice with regard to it because I asked him how come. He remembered that it was $600. He said, well, he remembers that it was $600. He had no invoice because he wrote paid cash, which means that he didn't write it down anywhere else.
Exactly.
Well, I have no doubt that $600 was in fact paid because according to Miguel, who I believe, who was very honest with me on the phone, he said that the original estimate was much more, about $850, but because he was referred by a friend and had done a lot of work there, he said he would do it for less. I have another couple of questions for you, Miss McDermott. You say you rear-ended this car and you had hundreds of dollars worth of damage on your car. What happened to the other car?
The other car, it was a Ford Explorer. There was only a small scratch, and it was a rental car, so they didn't care.
So he didn't care?
No, so nothing happened to it.
Did you ultimately tell your father about this?
Yes, I did.
When?
I told him approximately, he found out, and then I told him about 2 months after it happened.
Are you working?
Yes.
You have to pay for this. It's reasonable, right? He was being a nice guy.
See, he told me I didn't have to worry about paying him back. And he even told my mother that on the telephone, that I don't have to worry about it. And she asked him, what happens if she breaks up with you? And
oh, well, let me, just don't tell me. Let her tell me. You're her mother.
Yes.
Your
I
last
learned
name
about
is?
it, McDermott.
Yes.
I learned about the accident approximately 2 days after the accident. The car was already in the shop. It was almost repaired, and they were ready to pick it up. I had spoke to Dino about it. I said, Dino, we don't have the money to pay you for the car. My husband, one of the reasons why we hadn't told my husband, he had had 7 surgeries in the last 4 years. He was having a very hard time with his health, and I didn't want to tell him. I kept things from him because I didn't want to disturb his health anymore.
Good idea.
But I told Dino, I said, Dino, why did you fix her car? I says, why didn't you call me? I told Nikki, why didn't you call me? I'm your parent. It's up to me to decide what's going to happen. He says, well, she couldn't have driven it that way and her father would have gotten really mad. I says, well, he said her father would have killed her. I says, well, I don't think my husband would have murdered his daughter. And I said, I would have been able to handle that. I said, she would have either, one, had to have driven the car like it was, if it was drivable. I never saw it. I said, or found alternate transportation. He says, don't worry about it. She doesn't have to pay me back. And it was like a done
She
deal.
didn't have to pay me back right away.
It
as soon as
wasn't-
she got a job, because she wasn't working at the time. I said, even $20, $10 here and there,
Miss
that'd be
McDermott,
fine.
listen to me. You have to teach your daughter responsibility. How old is she?
She'll be 20.
And so this happened 2.5 years ago, so she wasn't quite 18, correct?
Right.
Well, then you have to teach her responsibility. I can understand that. 17 years old, still a baby, they do a lot of stupid things. But she was in an accident with the car. And if you're in an accident, you have to bear responsibility for taking care of it. I can understand her boyfriend at that time saying, listen, don't worry about it, you're not working, you know, I don't want you to get in trouble with your father, I will help you out. But then within a relatively short period of time, they weren't a couple anymore. Don't you think it's the responsible thing for your daughter to do? To pay her debts? Don't you think so? Sure it is. Now, but you have another problem, Mr. Johnson.
Judge Judy will continue in a moment. And later today,
My grandmother used to say, beauty fades, dumb is forever.
real cases, real people. Judge Judy. Dean Johnson says his former girlfriend, Nicole McDermott, borrowed money to fix her car and never paid him back. Nicole claims the money was a gift.
You have another problem, Mr. Johnson. How old are you, sir?
21.
So you were over 18 when you made this arrangement with Miss McDermott,
Yes.
and she was under 18.
Mm-hmm.
Is that right?
I believe so. I wasn't exactly sure of her age.
How old were you?
I was.
I think she just turned 18.
I just turned 18.
You did just turn 18. Are you lucky? Because if she were under 18, she couldn't make a contract with you, even a verbal one. You understand that?
I do now.
She can't be bound by it. She can't be sued on it. But if she were it was over 18, then she has reached her majority. Miss McDermott, you have to take care of your bills. You drive a car, there are expenses. You have an accident, you have to pay for them.
That's why I didn't want him to fix my car.
But he fixed it, madam. And you're over 18, and you were sitting in the car, and nobody said you had to leave the car there. It was drivable. You could have said, forget it. I don't have the money. I'm going to deal with my father. You didn't do that. Don't take advantage of a situation. How much after this did you two break up?
It was about a week.
About a week?
Maybe even less than that.
That's a very expensive week.
He didn't even want the money back.
All right.
Until...
Miss McDermott, you can't get along on your good looks forever, madam. You know? After a while, the looks go. And you have other things that you have to rely on, and that is your good name and integrity and responsibility and all those good things. Now, if you two had ended up an item, you got married and whatever, if he came to me 20 years later and said to me, she owes me $600 for the car, I would have shown him the door. But he did this because he cared for you. So, you're supposed to do the right thing. And the right thing is to pay him back his money. Judgment for the plaintiff in the amount of $600.
Parties are excused. You may step out. Back there to your right.
And now the next case.
Parties on Daly versus Barth. Step forward, please.
29-year-old Christina Daly says she loaned her ex-boyfriend, Matthew Barth, money to buy a truck, which he never repaid. Matthew claims he sold the truck and gave Christina the money, making them even.
A long time ago,
Yes.
he was your boyfriend.
Yes.
And these papers say that while he was your boyfriend, he needed a truck,
Yes.
but he had no money.
That's correct.
So he asked you for the money, and you gave him how much?
I wrote him a check for $4,000.
And you don't seem to deny that, sir.
No, the only part that I would deny is that she offered me the money. But
That's not correct.
Just a second. Oh, let's not fight back and forth. $4,000 was the amount.
yes,
And this happened about 4 years ago. Is that right?
I wrote the check on July 19th of 1993.
And then your relationship was over.
yes,
That was in 94.
But you had the truck.
yes, I did.
And you have, and you've never, according to her, you've never paid her back the $4,000.
That's correct.
Now, Mr. Barth, I read your answer very carefully, sir. And you seem to have a whole menu of defenses to this action.
Yes.
A whole menu. So let me see if I've got them all. Because, you know, I'm getting old, so I may forget one or two. First, you say it was a gift and not a loan because she offered you the money. Correct?
Correct.
Then you say, I think I paid her back.
I did pay her back a portion of the money.
Then you
incorrect.
say, the statute of limitations ran.
That is a defense, Your Honor.
Your second defense belies the first defense, because if you say you paid her back the money, or at least a portion of it, that would suggest to me that you acknowledge that there was in fact a loan.
Yes.
So we want to take that first defense that it was a gift and sort of shove it, right?
Okay, well, gift and then offering the money, but under terms, I would probably believe that I would have to pay her back the money. So as a gift is something you don't pay back.
Did you understand that?
So I guess.
Let's do this again very slowly, Mr. Barth. Why don't you
Absolutely.
try again with me in English?
Okay, it was a loan, and I accepted the loan.
Perfect.
Thank you.
Now, $4,000. And you say you paid her back.
Yes.
Tell me about it.
Well, when
Look
at the
here.
termination of the relationship,
Yes.
I had to sell the truck
Why is that?
because in order for me to get any kind of ground to pay her back, I have to come up with some money to pay her back.
Yeah.
So I sold the truck. And I paid her back what I received for the truck.
That's not correct, Your Honor.
Just a second. So you say that when you broke up, in order to be able to pay her back for this loan, which you felt obligated to do, you sold the truck and gave her back the money.
Yes.
How much did you give her back?
$2,500.
And that was the reason. Is that correct?
Yes.
Uh-huh. You know, you got to remember what you write down, Mr. Barth.
Gotcha.
Always comes back to bite you in the behind. All right? I sold the truck shortly thereafter. The intent was to dissolve anything that would link us together.
Mm-hmm.
That smacks more of an emotional reason for selling this truck than an obligation. So, let us assume for the moment, sir, let us assume for the moment that I believed you, which I don't. Unless you have proof, of course, of the check that you gave her.
No.
Oh, of course not.
Don't.
What happened to the other $1,500?
$1,500, the truck wasn't worth what it was originally worth. So
Well,
that's what
since when did she become a partner in your misfortune? You bought the truck for $4,000. If you acknowledge that you made a loan, $4,000, and you sold it for $2,500, she didn't become a partner in your loss. Oh, Now, did you ask him for this money?
Yes, I did. On several occasions, I've asked him for the money. And how he would respond to me was, I would love to pay you the money back, but I do not have the money. And I believed Matt because we were together for 2.5 years and Matt never had any money. And so I believed him when he told me that, and I trusted him when he told me.
But he's got a great smile.
He's very charming. Yes, he won me over too. And
No, don't add two. He didn't win me over, Miss Daly. Miss Daly, didn't win me over, madam.
Okay, well, you're smarter than I.
Judge Judy is ready to rule.
Mr. Barth,
Yes, Your Honor.
you owe her $4,000. And I leave you with this one thought. You're not going to be gorgeous forever, sir. Eventually, you're going to have to rely on people respecting you, trusting you, feeling as if you're reliable and responsible, because there are a lot of pretty faces out there. Right? My grandmother used to say, beauty fades, dumb is forever. Judgment in this case is for the plaintiff in the amount of $4,000. That's all.
Parties are excused. You may step out.
Judge Judy will continue in a moment. And on the...
Who are you, sir?
Herb Shavers.
You're a lawyer.
Yes.
I just wanted to make sure because I've read all of these papers. This is your father.
Yes.
Your mother?
Yes.
Miss Bocock, according to your complaint, you are suing your father for money that you owe to the state.
Yes.
Came about because several years ago, your daughter, who was quite young, was removed from your care, according to all the papers and documents that I've for child support.
Yes.
And that care for about a year, a little less than a year, and then went into your parents' home. Correct?
Reasonably close, yes, ma'am.
How many years was the child with you?
About 6.
And for part of that time, she was with you as a foster child. How many years was the child with you?
About 6.
And for part of that time, she was with you as a foster child.
Yes, ma'am.
Which meant that you were getting money from the state as a foster parent.
Yes, ma'am.
That's the way things work these days, even if you're a grandparent. And then you were told that you had to file for either custody or guardianship of the child, and you consented to your parents having guardianship.
I did not give my parents guardianship. I would never see my daughter again. She would go up for adoption. I would never see her again. I was not given a choice.
Doesn't make much of a difference. There's only one innocent in this case, and that innocent is this child.
True.
I mean, you made certain choices. You were told that she would be removed permanently if you let her have any contact with this man, and according to the papers that I read, you let her speak to him on the phone. She was just a little girl, and then you moved back in with him because you had some financial problems.
That's not true.
Well, according
That's not true.
Well, according to the papers that I've read, Miss Bocock, your little girl was assaulted by this man. She was taken to the hospital. Bruises were noted. You were told at the time that the man had to be out of the house before you could get your daughter back. Correct?
That's correct.
To make a long story short, the child was with you, and there was a period of time when you had guardianship of the child.
Yes, ma'am.
After she had lived with you for several years as a foster child, and you began receiving welfare for her.
AFDC, yes, ma'am.
To the tune of about $2,000. As the rules of the state are, parents are responsible for the support of their children. So the state pursued you for this welfare money.
Correct.
And you say that there was some sort of an arrangement with your father that he would pay this amount.
Yes.
He says that there was not, the amount wasn't paid, your driver's license was suspended, and your credit ruined.
Yes.
So why don't you tell me about the arrangement with your father?
On June 15th, at the last guardianship hearing,
look at me.
He knew that I had received the summons. I was being sued by the state for the welfare money, for the $2,392. He pulled me aside just before the last hearing and said, I will take care of this matter. I know you can't pay for it. I will take care of it. My lawyer at the time was standing right next to me. I'm a student. I'm a mom. I'm struggling. It's very difficult. It's not that I don't want to pay it back, but he promised to take care of it for me as a pledge. I'm nearly completion of my 2-year degree in biology, so I'm very close now, but it's very difficult. I'm financially very strained right now.
So you want to pay the money back because it's your loan.
Right.
It's your debt.
Right, but he promised to take care.
Let me hear your side of this, sir.
Well, ma'am, at no time have I ever said to anyone that I would pay this money either to her or for her. I did have a conversation after one of the guardianship hearings with her lawyer, Mr. Chavers, in which I asked him if he could get me information, a name of the district attorney and a phone number to talk to the person, because if you try and call in the district attorney's office, you get the royal runaround unless you have a case number. Because I had some things I want to discuss with him. What I didn't tell him at the...
Were you taking the money from the state because you needed it for your granddaughter, sir?
No. We could have supported her without it. In fact, most of the period of the guardianship, we didn't even know that we were eligible to receive it. It was a previous caseworker that said that we could receive that money, and in fact, it went for her daycare.
So how long did you have her in your custody without receiving any support?
I would say in the...
Step up, sir.
Your Honor, if
Yes.
I may, at any time during this whole guardianship issue, they knew that they could return my daughter to me with no strings attached.
Well, Ms. Bocock, I don't believe that that's absolutely true.
I was absolutely willing to pay every cent to take care of her. I've never had a problem with that. But he promised to pay this amount. He said that he...
A problem. Let me tell you what they are, madam.
Judge Judy continues in a moment.
My parents are lying, selfish people. I wanted him to honor his word this one time.
Real cases, real people. Judge Judy. Sandra Bocock is suing her father Bob for money owed to the state for child care of her 9-year-old daughter Jessica. Bob and his wife Barbara claim they looked after the little girl for 6 years and aren't responsible for the money.
If you wanted your daughter back, and you say there was no impediment to you getting your daughter back, and you were no stranger to the family court, I'm not talking about a parakeet.
I understand.
We're talking about a child.
I understand.
You understand that the child was removed from your care for cause by the family court, and the cause was neglect, because they only place children in foster care unless you voluntarily... America, sir, they do not remove children from parents without cause. Is that a fair statement?
Let me say this, that I've been involved in several cases where the issue of cause was at best in question, never substantiated.
That's why you're not the judge. That's why if the judge determines there's cause, a lawyer doesn't second guess them. I don't care what your view of the evidence was. The state cannot remove a child from a parent unless the parent voluntarily places that child or there is cause. So don't give me a lot of baloney. I've been in this business much longer than you have, sir. And that was my specialty. So if it's not yours, it was mine for 25 years. Now, you want to tell me your recollection of the conversation with Mr. Bocock?
There were two distinct and different conversations. One occurred in the hallway of the court following the hearing on June 15th. That conversation was involving Mr. Bocock, his attorney, the attorney for the minor as well, negotiations going back and forth.
Child had a lawyer.
Correct.
Child's always had a lawyer. They're called a law guardian, correct?
That's right, ma'am.
And the child should be returned to the mother, correct?
Not at that point, no. The discussion was
that custody would be given back to Sandy. So all at once we're cold-cocked with this idea that there had been an agreement at the attorney's level that custody would be given back to Sandy. So all at once we're cold-cocked with this idea that we bring Jessica and she takes her home. And we
so
just
you wanted more of a transition, correct?
It was, except for his comment that it was a surprise to them. Came as quite a surprise to the counsels involved. For we normally work these things out before we appear at court, so the reluctance that was expressed was quite surprising to us.
Well, it's not surprising to me because according to your former client, grandfather of the child, he said what he wanted was a transition so that the child could at least finish. Sir?
Yes, ma'am.
That strikes you as being odd?
The fact...
His grandfather, who's had custody of this child for 6 years, says, listen, it's June 15th, school is over June 30th. You know, we need 2 weeks, and aside from the fact she's in school. That strike you as being peculiar, sir?
In view of the facts of the time, the fact that we've been discussing the transition for about 6 to 8 months before then, yes.
It did strike you as being odd.
We've been
That's
working,
odd. Doesn't strike me as being odd to wait 2 weeks until school is over. You have children?
Yes, I do.
Give me a break. All right, so now we're past that. Now we're down to money. Let me hear the conversation about the money.
We had been discussing for months the return of the child to the mother. It was obvious that the grandparents, because of the timing that they had applied for the AFDC payments, was already after the time that we had already discussing returning the child to the mother. There's not an issue of financial need on behalf of the grandparents. It was a matter of timing. At the hearing, the grandfather stated that he would handle the AFDC payments.
Just a second. What you heard is, I will handle it.
The exact verbiage, I'm unsure of. What I recall is handle it or words to that effect.
Okay, so you're not as sure what the words were.
Not
Thank
the
you. You can have a
exact
seat.
word. There was another conversation.
Give me the other conversation.
The other conversation in context. Following the hearing on the 15th, I hand-carried all the court documents from the AFDC payments to Mr. Bocock's attorney the following day, confirmed the fact that Mr. Bocock was willing to handle the AFDC payments. And
confirmed with whom?
Confirmed to his attorney in the letter that I sent.
Just a second. You sent a letter to the attorney.
Correct.
You have a letter from the attorney to you confirming that?
No, I do not have a letter disputing it either.
He doesn't have to dispute it. You have a letter you sent to him and say, here, your client says...
Receive a letter back promptly.
I mean, this is a court, sir. You're a lawyer. You know...
Based on my extensive dealings with his attorney, had that statement been incorrect, I would have received a letter back promptly.
I mean, this is a court, sir. You're a lawyer. You know, you can't rely on that. You sent him a letter. Here, your client said he would take care of this, and he says, what, is he crazy? Takes him and throw in the garbage. You think that he has an obligation to respond to you? He has no legal obligation to respond to you.
But he did, in fact, respond.
How? Let me see.
The response was in the form of a conversation.
That's hearsay.
I understand
with the
that,
attorney.
It's also
Just a
operative
second.
fact.
With the attorney, not with him.
No, I had a conversation with Mr. Bocock.
Tell me about your conversation with Mr. Bocock, not a conversation that you had with an attorney.
Why did she move away to be with the man who actually is on record of having beat Jessica?
I was emotionally abandoned as a child. Of course I'm going to go seeking emotional comfort from somebody else.
Real cases, real people. Judge Judy. Sandra Bocock says her father should be responsible to pay the state money owed for childcare of her 9-year-old daughter, Jessica. Bob Bocock says he took care of Jessica for 6 years and should not be held responsible for the money.
Tell me about your conversation with Mr. Bocock.
He told me to, if I would get the amount due that he had received, he would pay for that. He would reimburse that amount.
Did you ever say that to him, sir?
No, ma'am, I never did. I have a copy of the letter that I sent to my attorney
Can I see the copy of the letter
in
that you
response
sent?
to the letter that he had hand-delivered to her.
Let me tell you, I've seen this, I saw this letter. Have you seen this letter?
No, I've not.
Let me show it to you, sir. Evidently, there was some sort of a miscommunication. He said his concern was that they were asking her for more money than the child actually received from AFDC, and that the conversations that he had had with both you and his attorney dealt with the fact that he didn't understand why they were seeking more from his daughter than his granddaughter actually received from the state. All right. Listen to me very carefully, Miss Bocock. How old are you?
27.
You made a baby, right?
Yes.
You made a baby at a time that you had no right to make a baby. That you weren't prepared to take care of a baby. But for the fact that your parents took your daughter out of foster care and agreed to become foster parents to this child, there is a very strong probability, based on the fact that this child was out of your care, that your social worker was absolutely correct, that the state would have moved in a proceeding to terminate your parental rights and free the child for adoption. There is no question about that. And you are an intelligent young woman. And how long has she been in your care?
2.5 years.
So for the first 7 years of her life, you supported her with nothing.
I gave her love and emotional support, which is more than they gave her.
No. She was in foster care for a year, which means some strangers gave her love and affection. And then she lived with your mother and father, who were up with her during the night, who wiped her nose when she...
Your Honor, yes, I did live there for a couple months.
I'm not talking about a couple of months, madam. How long did
Honor,
your daughter live with your parents?
I don't remember the exact years. She lived with her for a number of years. But why did I end up pregnant at 17? The emotional and physical abuse in that home is unimaginable.
You better stop blaming other... Listen to me. You better stop blaming other people for your life's travails, madam.
I'm not.
Oh, yes, you are. Your father didn't make you pregnant. There are lots of ways to get away from a bad situation. Having a baby is not one of them. There are other avenues. To make a long story short, what the state is now asking you for is $2,000. And they're saying, over the years, the state of California has probably spent $150,000 in foster care payments and administrative fees for your daughter. We're not seeking to recoup that from you now that you're back on your feet. We're seeking to recoup $2,000 from you. That doesn't sound like a lot if you make a baby. $2,000 over 9 years doesn't keep a child in shoes.
Judge Judy continues in a moment.
Ms. Bocock, get your act. And you can work out some sort of a system with the state to take care of this $2,000 that you owe them.
Your Honor?
Yeah.
I have paperwork. Last week, I received papers that they were going to garnish my wages.
Good!
Take my driver's license.
Just a second. Good.
Okay.
They can garnish your wages, and then you know that 10% of your wages are going to go to pay back the obligation. Know that 10% of your wages are going to go to pay back the obligation. Condoning, Mr. Bocock, the fact that you didn't really have a need for the money, and yet you took money from the state to support your grandchild. And I say that because even though the law gives you the right to do that, I always felt as if you didn't have a need for that and this was your blood, you should do it yourself. But between the two of you, You got to pay for your child, not him. It's not his obligation. It's your obligation. So, your lawsuit against your father is dismissed. That's all.
Parties are excused. You may step out.
Judge Judy continues in a moment. And on the next Judge Judy.
If she were so concerned about the emotional and physical well-being of her daughter, why did she move 450 miles away to be with her boyfriend who had physically abused her daughter?
I was emotionally abandoned as a child. Of course I'm going to go seeking emotional comfort from somebody else. That doesn't take a psychologist.
Is still with him. We don't know why.
That's all I wanted. Was
3:51 on the calendar in the matter of Hutchinson versus Glenn. Parties have been sworn in. Judge, you may be seated.
You're suing the defendant because you say he assaulted you.
Yes, Your Honor.
And injured you badly.
Yes.
So let me try to put this in perspective. You and the defendant dated in 1992.
Yes.
And not since.
Right.
And this assault happened in what year?
1997.
Just this past summer, in July. What were you doing near him in 1997?
Well, first of all, I wasn't near him. I was walking home from the store, and he came up behind me and viciously attacked me. Your Honor, I have pictures of my injuries.
You mean for no reason out of the blue, he just came up behind you and viciously attacked you?
Yes.
So tell me how that happened.
Well, first of all, we wasn't exactly friends after we broke up. It was a lot of animosity between us, and he told some people that he was going to beat me down like a dog on the street when he saw me, and that's what he did.
And now I'll take a look at your pictures. You were arrested for this assault, sir. Is that correct?
Yes, I was, ma'am.
And according to your papers, you had a trial already.
That's true.
Correct?
Yes.
And the jury found you not guilty.
That's correct. Yes.
Is that correct?
Yes.
That doesn't prevent you from suing here. You understand that? That's why you're here. Now, you want to tell me your version of this incident, sir?
Yes, ma'am. We broke up, and she just keeps harassing me.
How?
Just keeps coming back, harassing me.
How? I know you keep saying that. How does she harass you?
Over the phone, harassing me. She vandalized my car. I have restraining orders.
How many restraining orders do you have against her?
Well, I have this one restraining order against her.
This was in 1995.
Correct. She doesn't even think that it's enforceable. She just keeps coming back to me.
Well, when you say keeps coming back to you, she comes back to you by phone?
Yeah, by phone.
You say harassment. Tell me exactly what she was doing, sir.
Well, she'd come back. She'd call me on the phone all the time, harassing me, cursing me out, cursing whoever answers the phone out, you know, if it's a female or whatever.
Stop shaking your head.
It's
not impressing me.
She has like a fatal attraction. I don't know. I can't shake her.
So tell me what happened on this particular day, sir.
The incident, the day?
Yes.
The day of the incident, she had been harassing me all day long, harassing my wife.
You're married now?
Right. I got married, and she had been harassing my wife all day.
How?
Just calling.
You mean on the phone? Well, I don't want you to use the word harassing anymore. I want you to say what she'd been doing. She had been calling on the phone?
Calling, harassing me, threatening. Threatening me, you know, threatening my wife with bodily injury, threatening her with if she sees her come outside, she's going to do some damage to her. You know, threatening me with I'm going to get my boyfriend to, you know, beat you up and all this. And so
what did you do?
So I started to call the police, you know. I called the police all day long, you know. Kept calling the police, they never showed up. If you If you take a couple of minutes, Your Honor, you will hear it right here on the tape.
Tapes to the police?
Correct.
I'd like to hear them.
So I was calling. What can you do about somebody who's constantly harassing you, making threats to your wife? And
where are they threatening you from?
They're threatening from a phone booth, and they've been threatening me. I had a restraining order put against them. And
they're still calling you after you have the restraining order already on file?
Now she's calling and threatening my wife.
Threatening to do what?
Threatening to do violence. Just keep calling. I put a block on my phone, going to the phone booth calling, and she's vandalized my car. I had that.
Did you report that already?
Yes, I reported that once, and I'm not sure what I can do because, you know.
Is she making death threats?
Yeah.
Okay.
Serious threats, like she's going to do violence. She knows what she looks like. She's going to come to the door and you know, break in, try and get in the house.
What's your address? Oh, is it a house or an apartment?
Apartment 206.
What's your name?
My name is Tony Glenn.
Glenn with a G, George?
Glenn.
Okay, we'll be there.
Okay.
All right. Bye-bye.
What's emergency dispatch 20? Yes, I was calling. Someone was supposed to come out to my house because I had someone making threats against me and my family.
What was the address that you gave?
Pearl Street, apartment 206.
Okay, is this Tony Glenn?
Yes.
Okay, what's going on now?
Well, the person's still calling, making threats. The police haven't came. I called about an hour ago.
Yeah, we got your call. As soon as we get an officer out there for the report, they'll be out there.
All right.
Thank you. Oakland Police 22?
Yes, I was calling trying to find out. I called the police about 4 hours ago, trying to get someone out to try and deal with this situation. Someone keeps calling, threatening my family. I know the person, but they're just constantly calling and harassing me, and, you know, they won't stop calling and making threats on people's lives.
This is Mr. Glenn?
Yes.
Okay, I see your call. We'll be there as soon as we have an officer available.
You must be very busy, huh?
Yes, extremely busy.
Okay, because I called like at 4.
Yep, we're that busy.
All right, turn it off, sir.
All right, well.
Turn it off, sir. Okay. Now, after you got frustrated because the police didn't arrive,
right,
what happened?
Okay, after she kept calling and calling and calling, and then finally, after the police never arrived, I said, look, what is it you want? What is it you want from me? You know, you keep harassing me, you're harassing my wife, she has nothing to do with this. And so I asked her what she wants, and she was like, well, you meet me at the bakery and we'll settle this, you know? And at this point, I'm like, okay, I'm gonna go down there and see what's going on. So I go down there, and then when I get down there, I walk up to her and she proceeds to try and spray me with the mace, the pepper spray, excuse me. And at that point, you know, we get into a fist fight, and you know, she's been asking for a confrontation for you know, she just wants to get me into a confrontation with her simply because I'm a man, and the way it turned out exactly the way the police saw it. This man's beating on this woman, you see, and that wasn't the case, you know.
Where was the pepper spray?
She had it in her hand. She came out the bakery. I walked up to her, you know, to find out what's going on.
So she told you to meet her at the bakery?
Correct.
Judge Judy continues in a moment.
He kicked me with his foot in my face several times.
Before or after you sprayed him?
It was before I sprayed him, and the pepper spray didn't even work.
Real cases, real people. Judge Judy. 37-year-old Gail Hutchinson is suing her former boyfriend, Tony Glenn, for medical expenses, claiming he repeatedly kicked her and slammed her head on the pavement.
So tell me exactly what happened.
And when I walked up to her, she proceeded to spray me with the pepper spray. You know, she didn't hit me directly in the face, she hit me somewhere in here. So it didn't immobilize me, I guess, as she wanted it to. And at that point, I was defending myself, Your Honor.
Okay, so you hit her?
So I hit her, yeah.
Yeah, a few times?
Yeah, I hit her a couple of times. I mean...
A few times. She got a black eye. Right? Now you hit her where else?
I hit her in the face, maybe I hit her in the head, and, you know...
You hit her pretty good.
I think I threw her down.
You have any papers from the criminal court?
No, but you know, they found me not guilty.
I know they did.
The only
All
other...
right, Miss Hutchinson.
First of all, Your Honor, I never did harass him.
Just a second. Yes, you did. Just a second. Yes, you did. I have to explain something to you. I'm like a truth machine. Now, nobody has cause to put their hands on anybody else, but many times. You called this house and spoke to his wife. You called the house many times. You called this house and spoke to his wife. You called the house and spoke to him. Now, you know that, and I know that. Right?
Right.
All right. Now, then you did say to him, I'll meet you at the bakery. Right?
Right.
All right. So he didn't just come up from behind you out of nowhere and beat you up. And you did have pepper spray. Right?
Right.
Now, Miss Hutchinson, get over him. Do you understand? You pushed this man to the limit. What did you expect him to do? You've been calling and threatening him in his house. Time and time again. You've been calling and threatening his wife. Time and time again. You tell him to meet you so that you can settle it. He's frustrated because the police are not responding. He comes to meet you. And when you see him, you take out pepper spray and you spray him. What did you expect him to do? Say thank you very much?
Because it wasn't like that. He kicked me. He came from behind me and he pushed me to the ground and he kicked me with his foot in my face several times.
Before or after you sprayed him?
It was before he sprayed me, before I sprayed him. And the pepper spray didn't even work.
That's not true.
It didn't work.
That's
it
not
didn't
true,
work.
Miss Hutchinson, let me explain something to you. This is why your case was dismissed in the criminal court, because you lied. And when you lie, a fact finder, that's me, or in the criminal court, that was the jury, they don't know what to believe and what not to believe. Do you understand?
Yes.
So when you tell one lie, I don't know whether the second part of what you're telling me is the truth or a lie. All I know is you say first you told me a story that he came out of nowhere and he assaulted you. And you didn't know why. And you kept shaking your head when you said that, when he was telling you the story about how you were calling and harassing him, you kept shaking your head, no, 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 that's not true. And it turns out it was true. And you came to that meeting with him that you asked for. So he didn't come out of nowhere. You told him, meet me at the bakery. You just told me that that's what you told him. And you came armed with pepper spray or mace or whatever else it was. What did you expect him to do? He's married. He doesn't want anything to do with you anymore. Leave him alone. Otherwise, you're going to have difficulty with him. He's already had a restraining order against you. I mean, that took time to get. Judge gave him a restraining order against you. You have to leave him alone because you're going to, you know, you can push somebody so far and then they're going to lose it. And then you say, oh, I didn't do anything. But you did. You keep pushing his buttons. You can't do that, Miss Hutchinson. You're stalking him. There are laws against stalking. There are laws against the kinds of things that you were doing to him and to his wife. And you have to stop it.
Judge Judy continues in a moment.
You have to stop putting on an end up.
Real cases, real people. Judge Judy. Tony Glenn says his former girlfriend, Gail Hutchinson, was a fatal attraction who harassed him and his new wife. She's suing him for beating her up, but he claims it was in self-defense.
Now, Mr. Glenn, that doesn't excuse the fact that you probably overreacted to what happened when you hit her. You understand that. The pepper spray hit you around here. So you weren't, in fact, you understand that. The pepper spray hit you around here. So you weren't, in fact, at risk of your life at the time. You really hit her pretty badly because she's got a black eye and she has some other bruises on her. You went a little overboard. But I don't think you went overboard, sir, out of any maliciousness. I think that you had just had it. Yeah, I mean, have you seen her pictures?
But Your Honor, she was fighting back. It's not like...
I'm sure she was fighting back.
She was fighting back.
Listen to me. I'm sure as calm, as sweet as she stands here now, I'm sure she was fighting back.
Yeah.
And I'm not going to award her any money. I am going to dismiss this case just as the criminal court dismissed the case because I think in that case the jury was right. You have to stop pushing his buttons, madam, because after a while you push his buttons, you never know where it's going to end up. Do you understand? That's all. This case is dismissed. Now listen to me. Let me tell you about your countersuit, sir. Listen to me. You're suing her for the expenses of living together in 1992, when you were living together. I read your countersuit. Mr. Glenn, why are you looking at me with a look of incredulity? You say in your answer, listen to me, sir. You say in your answer that you lived together and you paid all the bills in 1992 and she was supposed to pay you rent. We are now in 1997, right?
That's correct.
Just a second. Did you ever sue her before for the money that she owed you?
Well,
that you say...
But I had to pay it back, though.
Mr. Glenn, listen to me carefully, sir.
Yes, ma'am.
This happened in 1992, right?
That's true.
Did you ever sue her before?
No, I didn't sue her before.
Good. Right. Now, you're also requesting money that you had to pay for a lawyer, right?
Of course. I mean...
And just shh. Where is the bill for the lawyer?
Here it is.
Let me see it.
I mean...
Let me see the bill. Mr. Glenn, what I'm telling you is you're not totally blameless in this whole thing, sir, because you really shouldn't have gone down to the bakery to meet her.
I've done everything in my power to try and,
Listen to me. What I'm telling you is...
Your Honor.
Shh. What I'm telling you is...
Your Honor.
Shh. What is this?
Your Honor, may I say one thing?
Just a minute. What's the name of your lawyer, sir?
Cornell Solomon. May I say one thing, Your Honor?
Yes.
My wife just gave birth last night.
Right.
That amount of money has just totally wiped me out.
Just a second. What I'm asking you is, first of all, one of these amounts has been changed.
No, it has.
Oh, yes, it has.
No, it has.
Shh. Oh, yes, it has. This was a 6 and it was made a 7. I know, or a 7, it was made a 6. I don't know exactly. This was a 6 and it was made a 7. I know, or a 7, it was made a 6. I don't know exactly what it was, but you say that this one is $600?
That's correct.
All right. How much did you pay the lawyer in total, sir?
$2,500. That's a lot of money, Your Honor.
Just a second. You paid the lawyer $2,500? Give me his phone number. Give me his phone number. Because I'm not entertaining your lawsuit for this money that you say she owes you from when you were living together 5 years ago. I'm not doing it, Mr. Glenn. Okay. Just give me a minute, please.
Judge Judy continues in a moment.
Could you return this card to Mr. Glenn, please? Mr. Glenn, first of all, let me tell you, I like your lawyer. And I think that he probably did a very good job for you. You did, in fact, give him an initial retainer of $750. He charged you $500 a day for each day of the trial. You still owe him $750, right?
That's true.
Okay. But you're going to pay him, aren't you?
Of course. I got to.
Very good. And I believe, Mr. Glenn, that you are... Do you work, sir?
Yes.
What kind of work do you do?
Janitorial.
You live in the apartment where you're the janitor?
No. I work at a separate community child care.
Okay. How long have you been working for this company?
5 years.
How much money do you earn?
About $1,400. $1,400 a month.
A month? And what about your wife, sir?
She isn't working at this time. She just had a baby last night.
Is that your first baby?
Yes.
Yes. Her first baby?
Yes.
Boy or a girl?
Boy.
How big?
He was 5 pounds, 13 ounces.
Little boy. I'm giving you your legal fees, sir.
Appreciate
Judgment in this case is on the counterclaim for the defendant, $2,500. Leave him alone.
Parties are excused. You may step out.
Judge Judy continues in a moment.
Judges